EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. We are 7 days away, everybody, from the NFL draft. Just 1 week until round one kicks off Thursday night of next week. It'll be April 24th. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, 1 week away. Can't get here soon enough. Goopy rumors are only ramping up in the final week. So hopefully it gets here soon. And we're close. But
goofy rumor season has been a little bit off the hand this year. I think it is always every year, but boy,
it's getting worse because of the aggregators.
Yeah,
I mean, my God, that Yahoo. I like Les was out there tweeting. You don't have to write stories about stupid people who've never set foot in an NFL building making up trade rumors. You don't have to acknowledge that. And by the way, I'll get in trouble again. The organ I work for does it more than anybody else now, unfortunately. You don't have to do that. But, again, I don't want to scold you so early in the morning, but fans click on that shit.
Well, did you see the one you're talking about is the Devontae Smith trade?
Oh my God.
Or Jalen Ramsey. I'm like, they just let Darius Slay walk, and now you're gonna trade Devontae Smith, a 25-year-old stud wide receiver.
And think about Jalen Ramsey and Vic Fangio and Miami. Just stop and think. My God.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough article there that I saw. But Johnny Mac, just a week out from the draft, brother, the final top 30 visit came yesterday, and we talked a little pre-show. You can't really tell. There's no real way to confirm the reporting on these guys. So we did see yesterday, Jeff McLean tweeted out it was their last visit, the last of the team's visit. It was Minnesota cornerback Justin Wally. He was the last of the team's top 30 visits before the draft, but there's no way to know it fully. We don't have all 30 names, but your final thoughts as we hear about the top 30 visit, some of the guys they brought in. That's another cornerback there that kind of goes along with the trend that we talked about a little bit earlier. But top 30 visits have come to an end, Johnny Mac, just a week before the draft here.
Yeah, and there's a few, could be 4, could be 6, depending on how they labeled some of the South Jersey kids that came in, which could be local visitors. And if they count as local visitors, that doesn't count towards your 30 limit. So yeah, unless you've contacted every agent, every player, it's tough to nail these things down completely. Now, some teams, Eagles, some teams, they just alert people and say, this is who we visited. So, you might consider that, but I wouldn't count on that with the Eagles. But yeah, so that's sort of the inside baseball of that. And I talk about the themes a lot. Ton of offensive linemen, ton of defensive front people, trench strip. We've been talking about that, which has surprised nobody. But ultimately, the surprising part, 2 surprises to me, ton of defensive backs, which I think speaks to the depth you've lost with, guys stepping up. Remember, you lost starters. So you lost Darius Slay, you lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, traded him. You also lost Isaiah Rodgers, one of your top backup at outside corner. A lot of bodies you got to replace. So that part makes some sense, but they're looking at some bigger time prospects than I thought they would have looked at, which tells you, hey, maybe they're not as bullish on Kaylee Ringo taking over and Sidney Brown taking over, which doesn't surprise me as much with Brown, more so with Ringo, but because Sidney's coming off the injury, wasn't completely healthy on his way back. So a lot of things to prove there. But, they've talked to some guys who are bridge picks, and they might be there at the end of the first round or early second round, which surprises me. a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the second part is, of all those names, no tight ends.
None.
And if they're not going to figure out some middle ground with Dallas Goedert, that is a significant need. Significant need. And it might be just as simple as they're trying to really lock down the information. They told the kids, like LaQuinn Allen, he's a Millville kid, South Jersey kid from Syracuse.
Syracuse running back. Yep.
Pass catching back, the best in the nation last year. Looks like a potential Kenny Gainwell replacement, maybe on day 3. But the confirmation there was his own Instagram page.
Yeah, his agent put it up, I believe.
Either or. Some guys do that. The person Marcus did it. Nick Scorton, everybody saw the picture with him and BG. The Eagles might have told the tight ends, if they had tight ends, to say, hey, lock it down. Don't say you're here. If you do say you're here, we're not going to draft you, things like that. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate it.
Right.
Try to keep that under wraps. I'm shocked but those are the two surprises.
Are they telling us that it's going to be tight end by committee this year?
Well, it has to be if they don't work things out with Dallas Goedert and they don't draft a tight end. Has to be.
Yeah. I mean, the funniest part about it is the best option of them all is the guy who's already on the team. But I know that obviously it takes 2 to tango and you have to work that out. But, it is an interesting approach, because I was thinking about this yesterday, John, and I'm like, boy, even safety, even corner, even linebacker, even running back, even positions that Howie has not typically had at the top of his value chart, he gets contingency plans in early. I mean, every other position that we lost a player, there was at least a contingency plan. Might not have been a big one, or might not have been a high valued one, but there was one. With tight end, there's been nothing. They haven't drafted one in the last 3 years. They didn't do anything until they drafted Calcaterra, I guess, in the 6th round a couple of years back, 3 years back, I think now. But other than that, and I don't think he was the contingency, they haven't done anything for that position. It's quite surprising based on the way they do business.
Well, he would argue they have, and the signings, the Tamu signings of Kylan Grant
until this year.
They
didn't draft somebody last
Harrison
year.
Bryant. Well, yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, Grant Calcaterra is the last tight end they drafted. And if you look at just Dallas's arrival, again, Zach Ertz set the NFL record for tight end receptions the year Dallas Goedert got here. So, they were working for, and they've done it in the past, obviously with Jason Kelsey. They're trying to do it with Lane Johnson, but sometimes it doesn't work out. How he said that. I think, they've been looking for an heir apparent for Lane Johnson for years now. Haven't been able to do it. It's not like they're not trying.
I get that. I think Lane is a little different, but if you wanted to get Lane's replacement now, it's not as pressing of a need as defensive tackle or defensive end or tight end if you're going to lose guys.
No, it's not, but that's kind of the point. I mean, and he said it, one of the few things he did say on Tuesday is like, look, I mean, there's 31 other teams. There's, shit doesn't fall always the way you want it to fall.
Right. No, I get that.
And when you're even at 22, now the Eagles were very high on Quinyon Mitchell. And by no means were they disappointed. But look, if Fautano was there, they would have taken Fautano.
Yeah.
And if Mitchell,
which by the way, I don't know if that would have been the right move. I know he might be a great player.
In hindsight, probably not.
Well, no, I'm not talking about whether he would have been better than Quinyon. I'm talking about Lane has 2 years left, I think, minimum from this point. So if you drafted Fautanu last year, you'd have had 3 years still left with Lane Johnson. Now, maybe it would have been as simple as he's your right guard and he sticks there until he's not your right guard anymore. But, from my estimation, the perfect time for me would be to draft a right tackle. And I know it can't always work this way, like you just thoroughly explained, would be the year before you think Lane's going to hang him up. Lane plays one more year.
Well, I mean, for all
bench, and then you slot him in.
for all the people that say, well, Lane signed an extension, Lane's going to be here for 3 years, Lane's this, Lane's that. At the very end, he always says, but at this point, it's always year to year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been talking about retiring for years.
Yeah, but
So
do you think he has 2 years left at least right now?
I do, but that is only if he feels healthy like he feels right now.
Right. If he gets an injury or something, that could change.
Like, you know, when he and his biggest injury was the deltoid in the ankle. Like, he was out, man. If they didn't fix that thing, and they tried the tightrope surgery, didn't work, still in tremendous amount of pain. And then they did a reconstructive surgery the bad year where they shut it down and he was injured. And then he started feeling better and he got back to himself. But even after this latest one, when we talked to him, he said, everything at my age is year to year, everything. So, you know, just because he signed that extension, and the Eagles did it with Jason Kelce. I mean, the Eagles had 3 different heir apparents for Jason Kelce. People forget, you know, Isaac Seumalo was drafted to be the heir apparent to Jason Kelce long before Cam Jurgens. And he kept going and going and going and going. So best case scenario. But with Lane, yeah, right now he's healthy. He's playing. He's never played better. Yeah, I expect him to be here through the contract, 3 years. But that ankle starts acting up again.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, I understand. I understand that. With it, I'm just a little surprised that they haven't brought in any tight end. Like, it's a little surprising to me. I mean, we talked about this a year ago, where it's like, well, 2 years prior to this point in Goedert's career, they had already for Ertz, they had already drafted Goedert. So it's like I was kind of waiting for it, and it just never came. And now you're in a position where if you lose Dallas Goedert, I mean, you have a glaring weakness on the offense. With all due respect to Grant Calcaterra, but we will see what they end up doing there. John, I'm looking at the list of names. I don't know if I can count this off right here, but I don't think we quite got to 30, if I'm not mistaken. The most recent reported ones
26 or 24, depending how you look at it.
All right. So there was Minnesota cornerback Justin Wally, Navy safety Raywan Lane III. How about that? A Navy safety, another defensive back. You mentioned Syracuse running back. How do I pronounce that first name? LaKeint Allen?
That's what I'm going with.
That's what I'm going to go with too. West Virginia offensive tackle Wyatt Millam, Georgia safety Malachi Starks, Penn State linebacker Kobe King, and then the list goes on as we kept you updated all through the process. But there's about 25 or 26 names, so you didn't get to all 30, but it is wrapped up. We'll see if we get any more reports on any more.
Yeah, and Lane was a local visit, so he doesn't count against the 30. They had a bunch of they had their local pro day when they invite in like 30. You know, a bunch of guys from Rutgers were here, a bunch of Villanova guys. Chuck Smith's kid was went to Villanova. So there's all these local versus top 30 things. And in the case of, you know, probably the best player, at least I think the best player they brought in was Azarako, and he might not even count because he's from Williamstown, New Jersey. So that's sort of the weirdness of the top 30 visits. That's the thing I wish the NFL would demand more transparency to. I think it would be helpful. Like when you visit with a player, you visit with a free agent, it has to go across the league wire. I think they should do that with top 30 visits. But nobody's listening to me. But I think it would help a lot. And I don't think it hurts the teams, but of course they all think they're playing CIA level subterfuge as you see what's going on with
really do
with the New York Giants and the quarterbacks and all that. So you all Shador, they're meeting with Shador Thursday. Turns out they're meeting with every quarterback at the end of the process,
right.
even the lesser ones, like, you know, potential second rounders. So yeah, it'd be nice to have more transparency, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt about it. John, the other thing I wanted to ask you about here in the open, we'll get into some of the topics we just hit on. We're going to have a great guest in hour number 2 with Caden Steele. So we got a great show planned. We appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us this morning. We appreciate each and every one of you. Johnny Mac, yesterday during our show, the news broke. The news broke that Jalen Hurts was to the Time top 100 most influential list, which is pretty wild because of he's a football player. That's a big list, man. That transcends football. Now I know it's Time. Maybe some people think you purchased the whatever the case might be of what you think of it, but it's pretty cool that he got in there. I wanted to get your thoughts though in the open because it happened when we had guests on, so I didn't quite hear your chance to elaborate.
I think it's pretty cool, and that's as far as it goes. I saw a lot of people that made it out to be some kind of major like thing, and I kind of chuckle at them, and I even chuckle more at the people that got upset by it. How could you put a quarterback on the 100? Like, who? It's not. It's Unfortunately, it's entertainment at this stand, but it's pretty cool from
I agree.
Jalen Hurts' perspective, and I don't I don't see any problem with it. Evidently, a lot of people do. I mean, Nicole Scherzinger's on there. She used to be in the Pussycat Dolls, I think. So, yeah, they can put a quarterback on there.
Yeah, I think the only other quarterback to make it at some point was Mahomes, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there you go. So,
yeah, so it's cool.
And they had a couple other sports people on there, but, different categories. It is what it is. But, it's like when Kelsey was nominated for people's sexiest man of the year. And he always jokes about that, but pretty cool. And hey, when you win the Super Bowl, they start thinking about you for Time most influential people. That's how it works.
There you go. Johnson, another feather in your cap too. Not that you need another one, but I am going to give you another one because you've been telling Eagles fans for a while now that people don't hate the quarterback as much as we think that they hate the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, my God. I mean, he's so well liked. It's so bizarre to me. Like, but I mean, if you don't validate and you don't say, well, he's the best quarterback in football because he won the Super Bowl. I mean, tremendously popular in the league. You think about Jordan Brand, all that. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. I mean, to say that but it is.
I'm wondering if they're going to launch a Jalen Hurts line at Jordan, or if he likes wearing the Jordan. Because I don't know if you're obviously, I don't think you're a cleat guy, but I like shoes, and I like, he always wears like the classic Jordan shoes in cleat form, So I don't know if he would like to leave those behind, or if he would try and get his own line, or
what. He was trying to get the two shoes thing going.
But the NFL's not going to let that happen.
Yeah. He was trying to get, but it wasn't catching on to the degree I think he wanted. But yeah, I mean, he's very marketable. He's very, he's got a lot of endorsements. As you said, Time 100. You would think that would resonate with people that say, hey, maybe he's not hated nationally. I've never met anybody who hates Jalen Hurts. Literally. I've never met anybody said, oh, that's a bad guy.
Yeah, right.
Like I don't even know where that stems from.
There are haters of his play on the field. That's it. There's no real.
You could say, I mean, Chase Daniel's the one getting criticized now because he says, if you started a team, that old argument, who would you take? And he said something about Jalen not being.
Yeah, he wouldn't put him in the top 10 or something. Yeah. We had Jake Gruden on yesterday, and he said the same thing.
Yeah, I mean. That's not controversial. I mean, if you think about it, again, the question is start a team. So you don't have the Super Bowl champions; you have an expansion team.
Yeah, I know, but I'm sorry, but I'm not coming up with 10 quarterbacks.
No, I'm with you.
There's not even 10 quarterbacks on that list total. There's like 6 maybe total that you'd like.
I'm with you. I haven't done the exercise because A, it's a stupid exercise, but B,
because it'll never happen. It's fairy tale.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter. I would probably put him in the top 10, but he'd be in the bottom half of the top 10. It's not outrageous.
He'd definitely be in the top half of the top half of the top 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's starting a team, so an expansion team,
Yeah, it's
essentially.
different. I mean, I don't have a problem
And
with somebody ranking a little lower.
even that, you have to say, what are you trying to do with that expansion team? Are you trying to build long term, or are you trying to win the most games? You know, like what's the context? Do you want to win 4 games, or do you want to win 6 games? Do you want, or do you want to build to be a playoff team by year 4?
Right.
Even that changes the dynamic.
There's too many possible variables with that whole discussion to even.
It's a stupid discussion,
yeah,
but
it kind of is.
Jay's been around a long time. I didn't know that Jay said that, but
well, no, he was on the Cilio show yesterday, and Cilio just brought up Chase Daniel said this, and Jay's like, yeah, sounds about right. I'd probably have him at 12.
I mean, Jay knows quarterbacks. He's been doing it a long time. It's not outrageous, is what I'm saying. I don't agree with it, but
I think 12 is a little agree. Like if you're at 12, you're starting a team with Baker Mayfield and
like some of the best quarterbacks. If I'm starting a team, I don't even want because they're older. Like, why do I want
right?
Even
Mahomes at 30. I mean,
I wouldn't even
take
choose
him, but I know what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's a dumb conversation. Number one, so if you don't like it, just turn the page on it. But to your point, people do not hate Jalen Hurts.
No,
they just don't. I mean,
there's nothing about the guy that I don't know what people would dislike about the dude. I mean, maybe you don't like his style of football. That's different than not liking the dude, but he's definitely a very likable dude. So good stuff there. He made the top 100 most influential people. Jalen Hurts transcends football. Look at that, everybody. Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, and he gets on the time top 30 list there. So good stuff for Jalen Hurts to make it to that list. This is interesting that he got on there. Now we're 7 days out from the NFL draft, John. We talked about the top 30 visits. We talked about the tight end spot. I mean, which is just an interesting spot. But I do want to look at the roster, John, and look at some of the guys who have to step up. Every year you have players that have to step up, right? I mean, last year we had unknowns with Zach Bond, with Milton Williams even was a little bit of an unknown last year. All sorts of positions will always be an unknown coming into any given season. But now this year coming off a Super Bowl, I think it's a little bit more heightened. And what I want to do is I want to power rank like the positions of where we feel the most comfortable. I know we did this a little bit. We did a little bit of a different version of it earlier in the summer, but as we're closer to the draft, we got Sidney Brown, we got Keely Ringo, we have Moro Ajomo, we have, as it sits right now, maybe you wouldn't say, but would you say Jalix Hunt if without a draft pick? Would it be Jalix Hunt, or I guess you could put Azeez Ojulari there on that side? You have Tyler Steen on the offensive side of the ball. Like, where are we the most positioned to at least give those guys a shot to compete and win the job and be an impact player? So I want to do that, Johnny Mac. I don't know how you see it, but just your overall thoughts on where we are on that, and then we'll break them down in order.
Yeah, I would say this: the Eagles aren't showing a lot of confidence in some of the players I have confidence in. When you talk about that list, I'm most confident in probably Moro and Keely Ringo.
See, Keely's not up there for me, but Moro is definitely up there for me.
And then least Tyler Steen. Sidney Brown, it's uncertainty, complete uncertainty. Who else? Who am I missing?
Sidney Brown is out there.
Jalix Hunt. Well, I think Jalix Hunt has a tremendous upside, but I think he probably needs a little bit more time. If you think about the trajectory of Milton Williams at a different position, but good player, really good player, enough to be the highest paid player in New England Patriots history type player, and that's a pretty big history. You know how contracts work, but
yeah, obviously,
that the trajectory took a while. I think it's going to be the same with Jalen Hunt, but I do like the upside. But if as far as immediacy, yeah, I would bet on Ojulari ahead of Hunt for next season if it came down to that. But I bet on whomever they're going to draft
Right.
more than Ojulari. So, but of the guys, if you're pretending the draft doesn't exist, the guys that would be highest on are Ringo and Ajomo.
Yeah, I'm high on Ajomo. I'm with you on there. Keeley kind of falls in the middle for me. Brown is the least for me as well. Curtis, I am not big on. I just don't know if I don't know. I think we're putting the cart before the horse on Sidney Brown. So we'll see what happens there. But that's going to be interesting to see.
I'm
Who
amazed that
steps up.
can I interrupt? I'm amazed that the fan base, like I think you should have tremendous uncertainty on Sidney Brown, but I'm amazed at how many fans have bailed on him. Forgetting where he was at the end of his rookie season and that 99-yard touchdown, which was one of the most exciting plays of the year.
And he had a good. He was also like pretty good too outside of that play.
Yeah, and he was playing out of position. He was doing a lot of things. He's playing nickel. He's doing a lot of things and showed a lot of upside to the point that if he didn't get hurt, I don't even know if CJ Gardner-Johnson is brought back.
Right.
If he didn't get hurt. That's how much they liked him. But it was a significant injury, not the greatest rehab. Wasn't healthy even when he was playing last year completely. And people have bailed, man. It's kind of amazing to me.
Well, here's one of my questions on him, because I do think he obviously has the athletic ability. The dude is like an athletic freak. If you watch him, he's really special athletically, super fast. Obviously, a strong dude, hard hitter, all those things that you would want in a player. But for lack of a better analogy here, he's a little bit of a loose cannon. Like I almost think he needs to be a little bit tamed more for Vic Fangio's defense.
He definitely
a little bit
has.
more disciplined. You know what I mean by that? Like I don't see his style meshing perfectly with what Vic is going to want him to do. Now, I'm not saying he can't improve and get better at that, especially as he ages as a player and gets a little bit more experience under his belt. But do you see that as an issue with him?
Yeah, he definitely has to get more disciplined, especially in Vic's scheme. But and he was playing in that scheme, just much more poorly ran as a rookie. But yeah, definitely. But I mean, they would tell you the same thing about CJ. And CJ, it's kind of masked by the fact that he's a playmaker. But he's, not the most disciplined player either. So, but yeah, he needs to get better at it. That's definitely one of the things that Vic is going to need to see to trust him more. So, yeah, but I mean, he was a rookie,
Right.
And again, trajectory.
Yeah, but even last year on special teams, he's a loose cannon. I mean, that guy fires around the football field like a pin.
Oh, it's not when you're playing gunner. That's not a bad thing.
Right, that's not a bad thing.
As long you have to be, obviously, you can't dive inside and leave the lane open outside. But so I think a lot of it is people think he's a loose cannon on special teams, but he actually did a pretty good job. Just because he's so athletic and he's down there so quickly. But the Eagles like him a lot, and they've always liked him a lot. And they don't want to hand him the job. I always say they don't want to hand anybody anything. But I'm just surprised. I'm a little surprised at how, and it really speaks to recency bias because he didn't play much last year because of the injury. And people forget what was going on at the end of his rookie year when he really was showing signs of improvement. Now, it will also happen during a bad stretch, so I think that factors into it as well.
Yeah, and late in the year. I mean, very late in the season, which
But
obviously
remember, he tore his ACL in week 18, so he had
right.
that great play against Arizona, tore his ACL, and there were other issues as well with that injury, and he wasn't in the playoff game. That's part of the problem because Reed got hurt, didn't play. Sidney got hurt, didn't play. And I had to play Avonte Maddox at safety in the playoffs. Yeah. Things went bad.
Yeah.
And it all gets conflated.
Yeah.
He's not even there, and it all
Yeah.
gets conflated.
Let's add tight end, John, to that mix, though, that we talked about. All right. And let's just assume, for the sake of this conversation, that Dallas Goedert is done and dusted and gone from the Philadelphia Eagles. Where would you rank them on your barometer if you had Keely, Ringo, Moore with Jomo at the top? At the bottom, you had, was it Sidney you had at the bottom? Who did you have at the bottom again?
Well, I put
you
Sidney off to the side. I think Sidney's about uncertainty.
Yeah.
As far as talent, he'd be up in the top. But for me, the guy that I don't think he's a guard is Tyler Steen. Like, I think he's a fine tackle.
Swing tackle, though. Do you see him as a potential lane? Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. His arms are too short.
So just a swing tackle, right? A backup tackle type dude.
That's what I think he is.
Yeah.
But I don't even think they're going to give him that opportunity. And they want him to be the starting right guard, and I just don't see it. I don't see it.
They got a lot of offensive linemen in the room. They got Kenyon Green. They got Trevor Keegan. They got Tyler Steen, obviously. They got who's the dude they brought in that used to be here? Matt Pryor they brought in. I feel like there's a bunch of dudes there.
Matt Pryor's their problem, interestingly. And it's hard to criticize the Eagles' offensive line, but I'm going to do it. Because Matt Pryor's their best right guard. But they're going to play him probably at swing tackle. And he's got really 4 positions. He can play every position but center. So I see the value there as a backup, especially on game day, because he can come in and give you serviceable snaps anywhere except center. So I get that part of it. But he's your best right guard right now. So why not let him try to play right guard? Unless you draft one. That changes everything. If you draft Donovan Jackson, none of this is a conversation. In the case of Tyler Steen, I think he's a better tackle. He played tackle in college. He played right tackle at Vanderbilt for his entire career. Then he played his final season in Alabama, who's their left tackle at Alabama in the SEC. But because he had short arms, the NFL projection is you got to go inside. You see it all the time. You see it this year. Marcus Embo played tackle at Purdue. Everybody in the NFL is projecting him as a guard. The kid from West Virginia played tackle, left tackle. Everybody's projecting him at guard because his arms are too short. I don't think Tyler Steen's a good guard. I think he's an NFL tackle. Maybe not. He's not Lane Johnson. He's not Jordan Mailata, but I think he's a good player. But I don't think he's a guard. And certainly if you're looking to replicate what you had from Mekhi Becton last year, which is pretty freaking impressive, yeah, you're not giving you that. And that power and that physicality. And everybody talks about the Eagles bullying people, and they did. Mekhi Becton was a big part of that. And you ain't replicating that with Tyler Steen. It's probably going to be difficult to replicate it with anybody, but Matt Pryor would be a little bit closer, big physical guy. Anthony Belton in the draft is a guy who screams Mekhi Becton to me. Starting, like, if they can get that kid in the second round, which they probably can't because he's going to be long gone at 64 and, probably 32, or it's probably a little bit too expensive to get him there. So sort of in no man's land. But there's a guy who I think would fit in perfectly as potential starter at right guard, give you that Becton-like, not saying he's going to be as good, but that
Right.
Becton-like presence because he's huge, and eventually kick out to play right tackle, which is more of his natural position.
Yeah, I could see that as well. We'll see what ends up happening there. A lot of tweaks that this team needs to come up with, a lot of things to fix before the start of the year. And a big part of it is a week from today with the NFL draft. John, there is a player I want to talk to you about with this NFL draft coming up just a week away. All right. It's the name seems to be gaining steam around here. He was in for a top 30 visit. The Eagles have clearly showed you, based on their top 30 visits, that they are interested in defensive backs and secondary players. Malachi Starks, John. Do you think there's a real chance that this team drafts Malachi Starks in the first round? Would you like that for this team? Do you think that's the right move for this team? We talk about value a lot. I just don't see the value as much in a safety. I really like the player, Malachi Starks. I'm not saying I don't like the player. I just never saw the Eagles, with where they are cap crunch wise, taking a first round pick and using it on Malachi Starks. I've been watching the tape on the player. Again, I don't profess to be a draft expert. That dude can play football. That's what I see when I watch his tape. What do you think of Malachi Starks? What do you think of the value part of the equation and everything that goes into drafting a safety in the first round?
Well, number one, what the part, and I mentioned it when we were talking about the top 30 visits and the theme. I'm surprised how hard they've hit the secondary, and they've done it late in the process. So that tells me a couple things. One, I already said, not quite as high on Kaylee Ringo, and Cindy Brown as maybe they profess. But also it tells me, for those who don't know, the coaches come into this process very late. Especially when you go to the Super Bowl. It's really the scouting department, the personnel department, the area scouts, and they grade. And then the coaches come in late, and this year it's even later because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So it screams to me like Bick is involved. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? I lost Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson. And these are not only two playmaking players on the number one ranked defense in the NFL. They're also very savvy, very smart, high football IQ, can pick up all the nuances of the defense, which is pretty complicated as modern defenses go. So it tells me that what shifted is like the coach is saying, hey, we need a little bit more if we want, if we want to have similar success that we had last year. Otherwise, we're going to take a step back. That's what it tells me. And it's been a boatload of guys, whether it's Trey Amos and Hairston at corner,
Right.
Starks at safety. I keep hearing Barron, and that, to my knowledge, he wasn't even a visit. Maybe they're trying to keep him quiet. The Texas corner.
Yeah, he's a good player.
And he's one of those wild gesticulation players. I've seen him at 8, and I've seen him top 10. I don't know, was the guy, and I've seen him, down late 20s. He's one of those wild, evaluation players. So what it screams to me is the coaching staff is concerned about losing Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Maybe even more so than the defensive line changes.
It seems that way. I'm talking about the coaching staff.
Yeah, no, I know. I agree.
Now I think, the personnel people, I think, are more confident in Kaylee and Sydney, and I think the coaching staff is less confident, is how I would evaluate it. And then, I think the assumption is it is going to be a trenches draft. So I think the assumption is, well, we're going to get help on the defensive front. So that's probably that as well. They know they're going to get an edge in the first 2 days. They'll probably get a defensive tackle too in the first 2 days. So I think that factors into it. And it's like, all right, well, if we're doing that, we still need some help in the secondary. And you can't have everything. You need a tight end as well. But just the amount of homework they've done on defensive backs and so late in the process. If you think about it from the Giants' perspective, we all make fun of the Giants. They're looking at all the quarterbacks in the last week of the draft. It's like they're a mess. They can't make a decision. The GM probably doesn't agree with the coach. The owner's probably involved, blah, blah, blah. They're a freaking mess.
It wouldn't surprise you if that owner says, I don't give a shit what you want. You're listening to me this year.
But here's an insurance. They have different owners. It might not even be Mara. It might be the other guy. They're a mess. But in a high profile position in a much worse team. With the Eagles, it doesn't stand out as much, but clearly something changed late in the process. And if something changed late in the process, I know Jeffrey Lurie well enough to know he doesn't give a shit about defensive backs. So he's not going to sit and slam the table. He might do it with quarterbacks. He might do it with that.
Remember, he did love Cooper DeJean, and you saw that draft video of him.
He did, but
that's a little later, but still.
He did, but that's when he gets excited about a player. That's because his coach, his scouting staff told him to get excited about a player. I'm just saying about when he talks about getting involved. It's Russell Wilson, it's quarterbacks, it's that type of thing. So he was excited about Cooper, but he's excited about Cooper because Howie told him to be excited about Cooper, basically is what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to sit up on draft night and say, we have to take Barron. He's not going to do that. But I do think it tells you that the coaching staff is probably like, come on, what do you expect? I mean, and if it is big, because it does seem like they expect a lot of big.
It does. There's no doubt about it. They're like relying on Vic to turn garbage to gold, like all over the place here.
Well, I don't think, but from their standpoint, they don't think it's garbage. They think, and I'm talking about the scouting department, they think Ringo's got a chance. They think Brown, that's real. That's not made up. But from Vic's standpoint, it's like, all right, I got to play this guy, this guy's unproven, this guy's unproven, this guy's unproven, this guy, and you want them all to hit? He's been around for 40 years. He knows the odds of that.
Which is a tough thing. If you're sitting there late in that first round, Johnny Mac, this is the one interesting part of the Malachi Starks equation. I think there's going to be a massive run on defensive ends in this draft. I know we all like James Pierce and Ezeraku and all these guys. I think there's going to be a big run on those guys and defensive tackles because of simply how much money they're being paid in the open market. Nobody wants to go into the open market and pay $34, $28, $35, $40 million for dominant players. You even heard Howie Roseman talk about that in his pre-draft press conference 2 days ago, where if you go into the open market, you got to pay huge money for some of these dudes. So because of that, I think all of them there's going to be a big run on them. So John, if you get to pick 28 and the Eagles are looking at a targeted trade up, and Malachi Starks is there, how do you value Malachi being the number one safety versus if you wanted to take a defensive line player, but maybe the 7th or 8th best defensive line player was there in the draft? Some people have said to me, why do you want the 7th or 8th best defensive lineman when you can take
I don't get that logic. Well, I want the 7th or 8th best defensive lineman if he's still a better player than the first safety. Like, just because you're the first safety doesn't mean you're better than the 7th best defensive lineman. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, it's a deeper draft. It's a far deeper. It's the deepest draft, arguably defensive front. That's where the most good players are. So number 1 is better. Number 2 is better than Starks. Number 3 is better than Starks. Number 4 is better than Starks. Number 5 is better than Starks. And then you start saying, all right, maybe. But what if number 6 and number 7 is better? So who cares as far as, oh, well, he's the top safety and he's regarded as, in all of these, everybody's got a different board, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But my point is there's a hell of a lot of good defensive front people in this draft. There's 2 safeties that maybe belong in first round consideration. There's how many defensive front people are worthy of first round consideration? I mean, there's a ton. And you talk about top 50, there's an unbelievable amount. So if you just look at the edge, it's Carter, it's Green, Ezaraku, James Pierce, Nick Scorton, Shamar Stewart, the Georgia kids, depending on where you have Walker, and the other one.
Where do you have Walker? Because I like Walker a lot.
I don't.
I think he could be. I think he has a chance to be better than Trayvon Walker.
Well, Trayvon hasn't hit to the level that he should. So, not from a prospect, I would say. Like now, maybe because Trayvon Walker hasn't lived up to the traits, but as a prospect, no.
Yeah, which is funny though, because Trayvon has had 2 straight seasons of double-digit sacks.
But he was expected to be Aiden Hutchinson.
Right, he was, exactly.
Better than Aiden Hutchinson. So he hasn't lived up when you're the number 1 overall pick. Yeah. But so I mentioned all those names. Then you go defensive tackle, Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, on and on and on. Even Derek Harmon, some people, he's got a huge upside. A lot of people have some issues with him. Even guys like TJ Sanders, all these people. Like there's way more good defensive front people than safety. So I don't get the argument of, well, he's the top safety, so he's got to be better than the 6th or 7th best defensive lineman. No, he doesn't.
Right.
There's no rule that says that. So from the standpoint, but also you have to look at it like it's very unlikely if you want to cut that number off at 8 or 9 or even 10. It's very unlikely the Eagles like all of them. And they seem to like Starks at least to a certain extent. So again, it depends on how the board falls. But if he's the best player and the only player left in the Eagles cluster and they're forced to pick at 32, yeah, I think they take him. I don't think it's one of those situations where they're looking at value of the position versus, because I think that changes a lot from top 10 to 32. It's not as important. And I think more, and in a lot of ways, it gives you a little bit more freedom because you don't want to take a safety at number 8. We're probably not getting the value there.
You're definitely not taking a safety. Not the Eagles. They're
not
taking
sometimes. I mean, rare players, rare. I think Kyle Hamilton would have been worthy of a top 10 pick. Go in the top 10.
When's the last time the Eagles have drafted a safety in the first round, let alone top 10, though?
No, it's very, there's certain positions. Howie talked about it: defensive tackle, defensive end, obviously quarterback. It's a lot easier to offensive line, obviously. Tackle more than inside, though. It's a lot easier to invest the top 10 pick in than it is at other positions. But 32 gives you a little bit more freedom from the value standpoint.
All right. That would be the first ever safety taken in the first round by the Philadelphia Eagles. How about that? All right. They've been drafting players since the 1930s. They have never taken a safety in the first round. We will see if this year is the first year based on their visits. I think it's very clearly a possibility. John, we talked about targeted trade up. All right. Here's a hypothetical, and I want the Johnny Mack answer. The Johnny Mack opinion. All right. You're 28. There's a targeted trade up. The Birds jump to 28. Walter Nolan's on the board. James Pierce is on the board, and Malachi Starks is on the board. Who you taking?
Well, if there's no, I'm taking Walter Nolan. If there's no, if Dom has approved it, but again, that's hard to ascertain, to say the least. But yeah, I'm taking him. It's not even much of a thought from
I'm with you on this.
From a pure football perspective. But again, there's some issues, and that's the kind of stuff we can't know, unfortunately. But yeah, to me, he'd be day one replacement for Milton Williams. Upside is huge. Cosell was out there comparing him to Jalen Carter. I mean, I think that's a little bit too hypish, but very
I didn't
talented.
listen to Cosell because sometimes people, like we talked about aggregators at the beginning of the show. Sometimes people twist words like that. You know what I mean? Where someone could say, "Oh, he's got a couple traits that I see that have made Jalen."
Yeah, and that's what he said.
And then people are like, he compares him to Jalen Carter. It's like that's not really what he did. I don't know if Cosell did that or not.
No, well, I saw what he did. He did exactly what you said, but he did compare him to Jalen Carter, which I think is lofty praise. I don't think he's that good, but I think he's really good. And yeah, he would be, of that group you said, he would be the clear definitive winner if there were no other issues. But there might be some other issues.
We'll see what ends up happening with those guys. But the whole safety thing, John, just to wrap it up here, you think it's a realistic possibility this team drafts a safety in round one?
Realistic? He's in the mix. I mean, they've looked at, he's one of the few players that would be in that range, would be worthy of being in that range. So from that standpoint, that's where he should go. He should go late first round, early second round. That's where his value is.
Right.
So from that standpoint, again, I think being at 32 gives you a little bit more freedom to take whatever. A, you're a good team. You won the Super Bowl. B, you're just at that point, you don't reach for players because what's the point? And the Eagles are too smart to do that generally. Not to say that there aren't some bad organizations that would do it, but if you're down 30, 31, 32, you're usually there on merit, and merit in this case means you're good. And if you're good, you usually make good decisions. And good decisions mean taking the best player available, and the Eagles have that freedom. So he would be on the short list of guys that belong in that area. Now, again, can they trade out and maybe align the value up with more of a need or a necessity?
Right.
For all the talk about nobody's traded a first round pick yet, which is rare. Why? Because everybody's like, well, why am I going up to get somebody? You're going to get the same guy at 35.
Yeah, and the offers to go back are probably they're probably not very impressive offers because nobody cares and wants enough to move up.
Exactly. So takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And if nobody wants to move up, but I do think the good news for the Eagles is the hype machine has started with the quarterbacks. And now you have all these. Now I would be stunned if Jackson Dart is not a first round pick.
Oh my God. What? And the funniest thing about the NFL draft would be if we end up with freaking 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round.
I think there's a good chance you get 4 at the bare minimum.
I don't know because you've been talking about Tyler Shuck. Now I'm hearing his name everywhere. Jay Gruden was on yesterday. He's my number 1 quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, all
remember,
of these people, like,
remember where you had it. Remember where you heard it 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
So all right. So we got Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, you think it would be Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck?
Well, I think Milrose in the mix as well.
So that's 5 names. I don't think they're all going to get taken, but I don't know if there's a run. Maybe they do.
It wouldn't surprise me if Jackson Dart goes to New Orleans. It would not surprise me at all.
You could see Kellen taking him.
Yep. It would not surprise me at all.
See, I could also see Kellen taking Shador.
That would surprise me, but we'll see. It's
I
possible.
don't know. Shador's pretty pro style offense, man. I think he's pro style ready.
I've seen him. I'm not a big fan. I don't think.
No, I know.
I don't think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback.
I think the best fit for Shador is.
I don't think Jackson Dart. I wouldn't take any of them. But if you're telling me, I wouldn't take Cam Ward. I take Cam Ward. Cam Ward would be Kenny Pickett to me. He'd be 20th,
right?
Wherever Kenny went.
Yeah, I think Kenny went like 22nd.
Like
I'm Pittsburgh. I'm moving up.
Like we don't talk about Cam Ward because Tennessee's taking him. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. He doesn't deserve to be the number 1 overall pick. To me, it's again an indication of the NFL's desperation to find quarterbacks. A bunch of these guys, and then when they get there, it's not like part of my evaluation when I say Shador Sanders is not going to be a good NFL quarterback is the assumption he's going to a place that's not going to develop him properly.
Exactly, which is a big part of it, which is why it might almost benefit him more to slide a little bit.
Well, yeah, it would, especially and go to a team where he can sit for a year or two or
even just a better team around him. Like if you go to Pittsburgh, that's a team that values the offensive line. They have decent pass catchers right now. Obviously, 2 big acquisitions or the acquisition they made this year with DK Metcalf. I think that'd be a great situation, and I think Mike Tomlin is the perfect guy to mediate. Shador and the big personality, the big persona, which I happen to like.
Well, I'm not even worried about the personality. That's not the reason I don't believe in him. That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't. There is a contingency of people though who do think like that.
Sure, there's always but half of these guys, like if you ask me, I'm just telling you what the NFL thinks when I'm talking about Tyler Shuck and. Not that I think he's going to be a good. He's got big lumbering, and that's half of it. Half of the league doesn't want to go into the modern era. They don't want to go into dual threat guys, and you still got all those old school guys who want a pocket passer, and you got to win on 3rd down. You got to throw from the pocket, and that's where Shuck fits in. He's 6'5".
Yeah, right.
230, whatever.
He's your traditional quarterback looking prospect is what he is.
Exactly. So I'm just telling you, there's a lot of people who like him. Not that I like him. I don't like any of these quarterbacks, to be blunt. And a lot of it has to do with the places they're going to be going. Tennessee, maybe the Giants. The Browns is actually a good situation. Because Stefanski knows what he's doing when it comes to quarterbacks. So if they end up trading back, they're not going to take a quarterback at 2, but if they trade back in, and they'll probably trade ahead of Pittsburgh to take whomever, maybe Shador by that point, maybe Dart, maybe even Shuck, because he's got extensive history with pocket quarterbacks, yada yada.
Shuck actually has decent mobility too. He's not like a statue.
No, well, most kids do.
You need it in today's day and age. I really think that. I mean, I wouldn't be drafting.
And I've said it pretty consistently. The best quarterback in this draft, the best quarterback who can play the position, the best is Dylan Gabriel. I firmly believe it.
What do you mean best? The best quarterback.
He knows how to play the position better than everybody else in this draft. He knows how to process. He knows where the football should go. He knows how to play the position. Yeah. Does he have the best? Gabriel, does he have the best physical traits? No, he's too small, way too small. And he doesn't have the athleticism, he doesn't have Kyler Murray's athleticism to make up for it. Not that he's that small, but he's undersized from a height standpoint, from a weight standpoint, doesn't have a great arm. But when it comes to understanding the position, football IQ, you never see anticipatory throws in college football.
You don't often.
It's all, this guy's open, I'm going to throw it to him, or 50-50 ball. Very rarely do you see quarterbacks throwing people open, so to speak.
It's probably one of my biggest questions on Shedeur, is how's he going to handle the tight windows in the NFL?
Yeah.
Which is a question for every quarterback. Let's be real. That's not isolated to Shedeur at all.
Processing, all those types of things, Dylan Gabriel's number one. But obviously he's not going to go anywhere close to number one because he doesn't have the traits. You have to hit before you start talking about that stuff, you have to hit the baseline of, all right, does he have an NFL arm? No. Does he have the measurables? No. But he knows how to fucking play the position. Sometimes that's built into the fact that he can't get away. Like a lot of these guys, Milroe, because he has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft from a physical standpoint. Like he's so physically gifted, things come easier for him. And then and I don't know the kid from Adam, but it's natural. It's human nature. Well, if things are easy for you, you don't work at, Dylan Gabriel's got to work at everything to make sure he can do it.
Yeah,
and
if the pocket collapses on Dylan Gabriel, he's got to get that ball out and figure it out. If it collapses on Milroe, he can scoot around and run away. Yeah.
So that's part of it as well. And then probably the second, then you start talking about, okay, who can play the position? Then it's probably after Dylan Gabriel, it's probably Dart. And that's why he's going to go higher than people think. Ugh. And then it's probably Shuck from the NFL standpoint. And Shedeur's in that conversation.
Yeah, I think Shedeur plays the position well. That's what I was going to say. He's pro style. I like him from that perspective. But John, how much has the evaluation of quarterbacks or the need to change your evaluation of quarterbacks been shifted in the recent years? I mean, even just look at the Final Four quarterbacks last year. And I'm not saying that's everything, but Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels, two dudes who 10 years ago would have been looked at as, they probably wouldn't have even been top 3 round picks just because of their size and, that they didn't jump off the page as pocket passers. Now they're, some of the best quarterbacks in the league. Same thing in the AFC. Josh Allen is obviously a dual threat freak of nature. Patrick Mahomes has good mobility. I mean, I think he stands alone, but I think the quarterback shift, man, is interesting. And I think you better get on wave. I don't think it's time to draft.
Well, I don't think there's anymore. I mean, they had no problem taking Caleb Williams 1 and Jaden Daniels 2. I mean, but those guys were high level prospects.
But both of them have decent mobility. Both of them are, they're not your 6'5" pocket statues. Neither.
No, but they also can play the position. When those two mix, then you have, special prospects. Whereas here you have a great athlete, a similar athlete like Milroe, but he can't play the position like they play the position early. Now maybe he develops, but so it takes a hit. And then you have the standpoint, like, if you want to look at it from the college perspective, we'll look at the national championship game. Will Howard's not a big prospect. He's, going to get drafted. Decent. Riley Leonard's not a big prospect. He's going to get drafted. But so it's not just, especially at the college level, it's not just production from a standpoint of winning. They're going to take the guys who translate to the league the best. And this is a bad year. It's a bad year. If you look at the big board, look at everybody. And again, nobody talks about Cam Ward because he's going number 1. But most people, if you look at most people's big boards, 15, 20s, maybe 15 the highest. Not Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams.
Right.
But he's the best of the lot this year. I would argue by far the best of the lot.
Who's your favorite of the round 3, round 4, round 5 quarterbacks? Is it Will?
No, I like McCord better.
Yeah, that's right.
I like McCord better. And if I'm looking for a backup, I would draft Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Dylan, because the only problem with him, John, is he's a lefty. So are you going to have a lefty backup?
Yeah, why not? Sometimes
I guess you can do it in Philly because you have 2 insane tackles, so you have that luxury.
I'm just talking as a backup, like day 3 backup. Like, who am I going to take? And I think Quinn Ewers is going to be a good NFL backup. You know, there's a bunch of them. I think McCord is going to be a good NFL backup. And I think Gabriel's going to be a good NFL backup. The problem to me isn't those guys. The problem to me is the Shucks, the Darts, the Milrose, and the Sanders, which are the potential first-round picks. I wouldn't take any of them in the first round. I've been very above board. And a bunch of them are going to go in the first round, which will help the Eagles. The more that go, the better for the Eagles.
No doubt about it. We want them to run like crazy. Pump that propaganda, Howie. Start funding it if you need to. Get all these quarterbacks taken. Jackson Dart, the best prospect since Joe Burrow. No, I'm just kidding. West Philly Los checks. Let's get to our super chats, and then we'll talk to Caden Steele in about 10 minutes here on the show. West Philly Los says, if Jalen isn't hated on, why would Mahomes and Brandon Graham speak on the media wrongly doubting him?
I come on, West Philly Los. Come on. I love Brandon Graham. I say it all the time. My favorite ever person to cover in the NFL. What do you think? Brandon's sitting there evaluating the media on a daily basis and how they discuss. I don't even know what you're talking about, number one. But number two, in the case of Brandon, you know, he's just talking about his teammate, and, you know, he wants him to be regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in football. That's it. Patrick Mahomes, you know, quarterbacks are a lot that, and I don't even know what you're talking about, but quarterbacks stick together. And, you know, if you watch Quarterback on Netflix, you'll see Patrick Mahomes talking wonderfully about Kirk Cousins. You know, it's what he does. I'm sorry, I don't buy into. And again, as Zander pointed out, Time Magazine, most influential people.
Yeah, that's not Philadelphia's most influential people.
I mean, if you're looking for every quarter, as I say, and I've been in different NFL cities, every quarterback gets put under the microscope. And it doesn't matter who they are. They could be the best quarterback, they could be mediocre, or they could be terrible. If you are the starting quarterback on an NFL team, you are under a microscope.
Yeah, but Jalen's upbringing is a little bit different than most. Like, Caleb Williams is under the microscope. Caleb Williams was also never doubted talent perspective like Jalen.
By the way, even high-level college, to point out, you went to Alabama. Tell them about Alabama and those lunatics. You think Alabama quarterbacks don't get shit?
No, I know they do, but the point about Jalen is that there has been, even if it's not real in NFL circles, John, it is real in the perception of the general public of, you know, oh, he got sad in college. Oh, he was a second-round draft pick. Oh, he was never supposed to be this good or expected to be this good. When you draft a guy 1 overall or 8 overall, you expect them to get to that point, and if they don't, it's a failure. With Jalen, he was never expected to be that good. So I do think there is a little bit of that still exists out there. I don't think it exists as big as people think anymore. Certainly not. But I do think that stigma still exists a little bit. Mostly because of what happened.
It certainly exists amongst, I'm not arguing that, but I mean, perception is often greater than reality. I'm saying it's not real.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the perception, you can have any perception you want. And fans are always going to think their players are disrespected. One of the most, for covering this team every day, people in Philadelphia think the Eagles are disrespected constantly. And I'm like, I look around and I go, what the? But this is one of the highest profile teams in the NFL. The league loves them because of their popularity and the passion of the fan base. They're always on national television. NFL Films has been in Mount Laurel. I point this out for years and years and years. And half of the people that work there are Eagles fans. The league office, Troy Benson, John Runyon, James Thrash. The perception outside of Philadelphia is that the league is in cahoots with the Eagles. It's and by the way, that's not true either. I'm not trying to say that. It's not true. But it's wild to me what Philadelphia fans think about the league disrespecting and they freaking love the Philadelphia Eagles. And the major reason why is because of the passion of those very fans. But no team, if you want to argue Dallas, because obviously they're a division rival, and yes, they are, despite all their problems, they are the highest profile team in the NFL, remain the highest profile team in the NFL. But in this century, and we're at 25 years now, so we're at a quarter century, no team has been on national TV more than the Philadelphia Eagles except the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. I wonder if this is like a human being like complex, because like even listening, I was listening to Will Howard answer a question about like, why should an NFL team draft you? And his answer, it didn't bother me, but like what you're talking about, I think is what most people have. And you talked about this last year a lot with Jalen and even the team of, making a narrative that they have to overcome or making adversity.
Yeah, well,
and it's like Will Howard's like, I've been doubted my whole life and I've always overcome everybody that's ever doubted me. And that's why you should draft me. And I'm like, well, I'm not mad that you want to overcome people that doubted you, but that wouldn't be the answer I would give for like why somebody should draft you. I want to be, win a championship for this city. I'm going to work my ass off every single day to build a great team, to, work on my game, to improve my game, to uplift the franchise. Not prove your doubters wrong, but I do think there's like a human complex, John.
Yeah, I mean, I look, motivation is a real thing, and you use whatever motivates you. Hey, knock yourself out. Doesn't mean it's true. I say it all the time. I go back to Super Bowl 52, that underdog. I always chuckled at that. I'm like, we all thought you were awesome. Your quarterback got hurt,
which did make him the underdog. For the play.
Well, they were the literal underdog. So that part you could do it, but but the whole mentality from the players was like, everybody doubts us. Everybody thinks we stink. And it was the exact opposite. I'm there every day. We all thought you were awesome. And Carson Wentz was going to win MVP. And then the quarterback got hurt. Yeah. Then people started to doubt them. But our overarching thought process behind it was nonsense, is the only point I try to bring up all the time, because we all knew that was a really good team. And then, to your point about motivation, if it works, use it. I said that with Doug. If it works, hey, use it.
Right. And it did work. Jay Perfect checks in. What's up, Jay? Any truth to TJ Watt interest? Justin Simmons. Yeah, we talked about Justin a lot. You think there is? I mean, look, here's the one question. I know you and Jeff were bashing anybody talked about it, but I see it a little differently than you two. That's all right. Do you think Howie Roseman made a call? That's my question.
Howie always makes a call.
Well, that's why I think it's fine to talk about. That's where I disagree with you and Jeff. Like if Howie's making a call, we
I can't speak for Jeff, but I never said it's not okay to talk about. You can talk about whatever you want. I'm saying the realism part of it,
right, is not as real as you might think or hope.
Yeah. Howie's already on record saying about a player they would value even more with Myles Garrett, and would even be, before he signed, have been more realistic as far as because he requested a trade. He was on record saying he wanted out before they made up. From that stand, it was even more realistic. And Howie went on record and said, look, we'd love to have him, but it's just not plausible right now. You know, if we did that, we'd have to take away from this and this and this to make that happen. Same thing with TJ Watt, even more so, because Miles signed and set the new standard. So now that's what TJ's looking at. Say, well, I want $40 million.
Right.
So anybody can talk about it. That's not what I said. I'm saying it's not realistic. And, you know, if Howie, and again, everything, you know, a big part of this offseason, more so, would be with Aaron Rodgers. If you see the stuff with Aaron, he's waiting for Minnesota. And if he's not signing there, he's probably going to retire. And why hasn't he retired? Because he's waiting for Minnesota to get in the offseason work and watch JJ McCarthy and say, oh, fuck, he's not ready. And
which is a good possibility, by the way.
Which is a good possibility. And then maybe they change their minds. Same thing with the Eagles. They get the offseason work and they don't get the player they want on the edge in the draft. And, you know, Jalix Hunt doesn't look ready, and Azeez Ojulari looks like Azeez Ojulari in New York, and Josh Uche looks like the guy who couldn't play in Kansas City, and they go, oh, fuck. Then maybe they're willing to move mountains. But I would say the only reason I leave that door even open ajar is because of that.
Right.
99, they say, oh, fuck, we have nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
All right, let me rattle through these last couple of super chats, and we'll get to Caden Steele. I see him in the green room. What's up, Caden? We'll get to you in a second, my man. Thanks for being here. Brian Pumper checks in. What's a show without a Pumper super? Thank you, Brian. He says Malachi Starks is kind of meh at safety. Anybody who watched the guy play knows he's a better slot corner. J-Max Vikings are a prime trade-up 4 picks. I don't think he's meh at safety, Brian. I think he's much better than meh, but he can play the slot. I think he's one of those players, John, that's super high floor, like you talked about, a safe pick. If you will, maybe not the upside of like a Kyle Hamilton or somebody like that, but I think he's a safe pick. What do you think of what Brian said there?
Well, slot having versatility, that helps. They're looking at a lot of players that have versatility because they also need a backup slot corner. They don't have anybody right now and God forbid if Cooper sprains an ankle, they need so that's why they're looking at the Jalen Smiths of the world. The kid from Minnesota projects inside, Wally that they had in yesterday. And there was a couple others who have slot potential. Jacob Parrish even has slot potential.
Yeah. Where is he projected? I saw he was a visit. Is he like a 3rd round projected guy?
Yeah, he's one. I mean, I wouldn't take him till the 3rd round. I'd take him at 96. But I wouldn't take. He'll probably go before that. I would say he's out. He's in no man's land guy.
Yeah, he's a tough one to gauge. Pump, thank you, bro. John, finish up.
And my Vikings, they only have 4 picks, so they're probably going to trade out from 24. But it's a little bit too high, I would think, for the Eagles to go.
Yeah, Tyler Braswell checks in. He says, McMahon's Thea Land Fund? Am I missing something there? McMahon's this land fund? I don't know.
No idea. Thanks for the $5, but
I didn't know if it was like a WWE McMahon or something. I don't know what the heck. Tyler, if you want to clarify, I will read your chat again because I think you might have made a spelling error there. So if you drop in another comment, Tyler, you don't have to super chat it. I'll read it to John after we get to Caden Steele. Last one here. Cody B says, Sanders has been hand-fed by Dion his entire career. Bust alert. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm just not high. And it's got, again, I go back to the O'Connell quote because I love it. You know, it's more about the organizations that he's potentially going to than the player, because there's a lot of development that need for all quarterbacks. But what Kevin said was organizations fail quarterbacks more than quarterbacks fail organizations, and I believe that's 100% true.
Oh, I see what Tyler was doing here. This was the Thailand fund, I guess, from Mike Gill going to Thailand.
Yeah, Mike, I'm not going to Thailand. So
No,
I'm
Tyler,
not a British. Yeah,
you're not seeking a lady boy.
not seeking a lady.
Mike Gill's never going to live down those allegations in the chat. All right, let's get to our break. We're going to get to Caden Steele coming up in a couple minutes here on Birds 365. We appreciate all of you guys for being here. 7 days away from the NFL draft. Just 1 week until we get to the draft. It's always a big day of the offseason, so we're all excited for it. Stay tuned, everybody, on Birds 365. Hit that like button. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, just 7 days away from the NFL draft, starting off next week. Joined now by Caden Steele from NJ.com. Caden, how you doing this morning, man? Thanks for joining here on a Thursday edition.
Doing good. Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm excited. This is my favorite time of the NFL calendar. I know not everyone loves this period, but, I mean, other than the games, this is my favorite time of the year.
Are you feeling the excitement, though, Caden, this year? I don't know if it's because we won the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's because we're picking 32, but I'm with you. I love the NFL draft. I haven't quite felt the juice this year. How about you?
I still feel it. I think I love the draft no matter what, whether what the Eagles do or other teams. I mean, I still feel it, but I get, if you were a fan and you have, the 32nd pick and the 64th pick, aren't as ideal situations in terms of the draft, but still excited.
What I like about the draft is that all 32 teams have that. So this is the one time where all 32 fan bases have that optimism that they're going to get the player that's going to start to turn things around, or in the case of the Eagles, be able to replace some of the starters. So that's the part of it I agree with Caden. But this class as a whole, I got to tell you, Caden, I am not enamored with it. And it mainly has to do with the first round. Obviously, there are some deep positions, defensive front people, which is good for the Eagles, running backs, which is sort of rare, I think, in the modern NFL. Very deep class there. Tight end, which should help the Eagles, although for some reason there's no evidence of them doing significant homework. I think there's some subterfuge going on at the tight end position, but just it's not a sexy draft class at the top. The quarterbacks stink, Kate. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I would agree with you. I think it's more of a high floor class than it is a high ceiling class, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing because you mentioned the D-line class, John. And for the Eagles, I mean, I think, that's where they probably should go. And I expect that's where they will end up going is, double dipping, on some of those positions, defensive tackle, DN, because there is a lot of depth there. But overall, yeah, it's not the sexiest wide receiver class. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
There's some good players, but it's not last year's class with Neighbors and Harrison and Brian Thomas and Roman Dunze. It's not to that level. I think it's closer to 2022 when it was JSN and Zay Flowers and the quarterback class. Like you said, other than Cam Ward, it's, pick a guy who has some traits and you hope for the best, but there's no guarantee that guy will be a starter. Even Shador, I'm not sure necessarily. So yeah, it's not the most exciting class, but I do think there is some good defensive linemen and some good tight ends. And I even think the corner class, is solid. So I think there's some positions in need that, that have depth that the Eagles need. So
yeah.
Well, when you look at the top 30 visits, that's a surprise. Now, they looked at a ton of offensive linemen. That didn't surprise me. They looked at a ton of defensive front people. That didn't surprise me. But then they looked at a ton of defensive backs, and they looked at them late in the process. And I was talking about that earlier in the show, Caden. What that tells me is who comes into the process late? The coaching staff. And I'm thinking, hey, maybe Bick is saying, look, I just lost Darius Slay. I just lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. With the number one defense, we might need some help in the secondary. How do you look at them looking at so many corners? Because you think, well, they got Quinyon Mitchell, they got Cooper. They're not going corner again. They're looking at some high-level corners. And then Malachi Starks at safety.
Yeah. I don't think it's as much as a surprise to me because, I mean, at the end of the day, there's no sample size of Keely Ringo that tells you that he's going to be a good NFL corner. Look, he's a really good special teams player. He's obviously got some traits that you want, the athleticism, at least the straight line speed, the size, the weight. Like he has everything that you could potentially, if you were building a corner, he has those things, but he isn't very experienced. He hasn't played a ton. And we don't know. We don't get to see, practice every single day how he looks. And maybe they like him, but maybe they don't love him. And I think it would be silly of them to not add some level of competition. And I know they've signed Adoree Jackson. I don't view that as a legitimate starting option. I mean, he's getting older. He hasn't been really good the last few years. He's been okay in limited snaps last year. At least PFF graded him out, solid, but he didn't play a ton for the Giants. I don't think that's a guy you can bank on being confident. I think he's fine adding him to the room in training camp. He let him compete for a roster spot, but I don't know if he's a viable starting option. And if you don't have a ton of confidence in Keely Ringo, or at least if you're a little hesitant, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't know if I would go in the first or second round, but I'm not counting it out necessarily that they take a corner in the first 2 rounds. But I think in the first 3 rounds, they're going to take a corner at some point.
Yeah. I mean, if the visits tell you anything, they would tell you that they agree with you because there's a lot of corners, a lot of even safeties now. A couple of safeties have been in. So interesting stuff. Caden, as you mentioned at the start, you're sitting there at 32. All right. You seem like you're a draft guy. You like the NFL draft a lot. Who do you like? Couple names in mind? Like who's a couple ideal scenarios for the Birds down at 32? Obviously, you're not going to have your pick of the litter, but I do think a good player will fall to you there. Who are a couple names you're looking for that the Eagles could maybe pounce on or maybe even trade up a couple of spots for in this draft?
I think the dream scenario would be either Walter Nolan falls, which I don't get. It must be like some people. There's been some stuff out there about potential off the field stuff.
Yeah.
He's like a top 20 talent in this class. When I watch him, I mean, he has all the power, the speed, the get off, all the tools that you want from a defensive tackle that makes you think that he could eventually become a really high level starter in the NFL. So if he falls there, there's obviously going to be a reason for it. But if they are comfortable with him and with whatever is causing people to be concerned, that's a guy I think they would sprint up and take potentially. I know there's another guy with character concerns that's been reported, but I think if James Pierce was at 32, I don't know how they feel about him necessarily, but I mean that is a guy that I would also think in that range. The talent is really tough to pass up on. Donovan Zaraku, who they brought in for a top 30, might be like the safer option because of the production profile. And I mean, the guy has bend and athleticism as well. So you can kind of, put everything together. I think he's a pretty safe prospect as well. Nick Scorton, maybe a safe pick at 32 or a trade out option into the second round as well. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. He's got a little more size than they currently have in that edge rush room. He's going to set the run. I think any of these defensive linemen, if I had to take a bet, one of them is going to fall, maybe even like a Derek Harmon from Oregon. There's just so many different options. I think that's the position. Most likely they go in the first round. Maybe Malachi Starks, but they haven't took I don't know if they do that, but I mean, I think late in the first round, he might be one of the best values too. And he's a guy that you probably would have to trade up for, at least a few slots.
How do you gauge the Malachi Starks? I just think it's interesting, Caden, because this team has crunched some cap this year, right? And they've talked about it as they have future contracts coming up. They have to get ready to pay some of the guys who are performing at a high level on rookie deals right now. So when I thought about Malachi Starks, I love the player. I think he'd be a great player. I think he's got one of the higher floors in the draft. But is that a value pick for this team? You know what I mean? Like, they got edge needs. They got defensive tackle needs. Are they going to draft a safety? They had CJ Gardner-Johnson play at a high level for $8 million. High-level edges are getting 30-plus million, 28 million, 26 million. How do you gauge that part of the Malachi Starks talk?
Yeah, I mean, history says they're not going to draft a safety in the first round. They haven't since, the 70s. But I guess there is some, a good reason for possibly doing it. I mean, similar to the Keely Ringo argument, I have no idea what Sidney Brown is. We saw some flashes as a rookie. He suffered an injury last year, and obviously Vic, whether he wasn't confident, in his play or he wasn't confident in, Sidney was just too far behind. He wasn't ahead of Tristan McCullum on the depth chart. So I think Sidney Brown is a wild card. Maybe he develops into a starter, but I'm not sure. And I heard you, Zander, talking about before, the versatility that Malachi Starks has. He played he played nickel at Georgia and safety. I mean, and when they're in their nickel packages, if they want to kick Cooper DeJean outside, he's a guy that can slide into safety. And then if you like Sidney Brown, then he can come on the field as a safety, as your safety. So he brings versatility also to this defense. And I guess in terms of value, maybe Howie Roseman's mind's shifted a little bit if he thinks Malachi Starks as a special guy, a special leader, someone that he thinks could be a face at the back end of the secondary. We saw him pay Zach Bond a ton of money. We've seen him pay Saquon a ton of money. And then, people for a while didn't think he would pay a linebacker or pay a running back, and he's done it. So who knows? Maybe he'll draft a safety. I mean, he's talked about circumstantial things. And if he believes Malachi Starks is a humongous difference maker, and it's more than just the positional value. This is a guy who could be our leader. This is a guy that can just transform the back end of our defense. I think it's definitely an option that maybe it wasn't 2 years ago, because I think Howie Roseman's evolved a little bit.
You talk about positional value in the business of football, which I know some people don't like to talk about, but I think we got bamboozled a bit, because I've been saying what you're saying, Caden, all the time. I think we all are. Well, Howie paid a running back and he paid a linebacker, and he did from his conventional. Those guys are still wildly underpaid compared to their production, and compared to Zach Bond got Bryce Hubb's contract. He got the exact same contract. He got Bryce Hubb's contract. And Saquon Barkley, I always said, Saquon Barkley, Will Bryce got $88 million. I'm like, these guys are still wildly underpaid. But because the Eagles went off the market and they set the market of those positions, yeah, we got bamboozled a little bit there. And I say that to say this. Dallas Goedert. The Eagles have kind of set this demarcation line, it seems, where there's guys on the top of it that they're going to pay, and there's guys below it that they're not going to pay. And I think Dallas Goedert is on the CJ Gardner-Johnson side. Very good player, but they're just not going to pay him long term. Are they going to pay him short term? Are they going to work something out? And if not, why no hype around tight ends? Because this is a deep tight end draft. And they should be looking at, because best case scenario, Dallas is here for one more year. Why no tight end hype?
Yeah, maybe they're trying to hide it. Maybe they're trying to hide their interest. It seems a little weird to say the least. But yeah, all signs point towards Dallas Goedert probably not being back, or like you said, John, at best, maybe they agree to something like it's like the Josh Sweat restructure and he's gone free agency no matter what happens next year. So it's going to be a huge need. And there's no guarantee you're going to be able to find someone of his production. But yeah, there are some good options. You thought maybe they would bring in, Mason Taylor, Elijah Roar, or Harold Fannin, or
Gunnar. They got Harold Fannon's coach.
Yes. So maybe they feel comfortable enough with him. And,
I don't want a glorified pass catcher at tight end. We barely use Jahan Dotson. Come on. We need a guy that can do more than just catch.
Yeah, I agree. They need a blocker. Especially, I mean, they're going to be a run-heavy team again. I think we all know that, as long as Saquon's here and as long as that offensive line's in place. So to me, they need a Dallas Goedert type. So why not use Dallas Goedert?
Yeah. Whoever they bring in, it's not going to be as good as Dallas Goedert next season, at least. I mean, look, I think some of it is, people forget how good Dallas Goedert has been. He is a top 5 tight end or top 6 tight end when healthy, but that's been his biggest problem. Maybe they would have gave him an extension, a year or two ago, but just the injuries have added up every year. He seems to run into something that causes him to miss an extended period of time. And as he gets older, I get why they're not going to pay him. I mean, they're going to have to make tough choices. And if you're not going to pay the guy who has a long injury history, and he's getting up there in age, I get it. Maybe you feel tight end is a position that you can replace, but there's not a lot of good tight ends in the NFL right now. I mean, off the top of my mind, I don't think I can say like 10 to 12 tight ends that I feel great about. Dallas Goedert is one of those tight ends.
Oh yeah, easily.
So it's not going to be easy to replace. I do think there's some good options in the draft, and even though they haven't brought in guys for top 30s, I expect them to bring in that position, because are you really going to go into the year of Grant Calcaterra, Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson as your tight end room?
That's what it looks like. I mean, every other position, Caden, they've gotten a contingency plan, whether it be a high value one or not. They've done something. They haven't done shit at the tight end other than Kylan and Harrison.
Come on, Harrison Bryant. You're going to upset her.
Yeah,
we have one viewer who thinks Harrison Bryant is a star in the making.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I liked him coming out of college. I mean, he won the John Mackey Award.
Mackey Award. Yeah, Mackey Award. Mackey Award winning tight end.
Yes. He's been on some bad teams. I guess if you want to go that route, and he hasn't played with a lot of good quarterbacks. If you got Harrison Bryant to be a high-level tight end too, I think that's a possibility. I think he's a better blocker than Grant Calcaterra. And it makes you wonder where Grant Calcaterra fits into the picture if they bring in a rookie tight end who can contribute, because although he's got some pass catching upside and he's shown that throughout the years, I don't know if they trust him fully as a blocker. I know he sells out his body sometimes, and he's been praised for that before. But
he's a better blocker than he was supposed to be. But if you look at, and I've dubbed this offseason the Temu offseason, because the Eagles just are shopping at the discount outlets, but they gave Kylan Granson more money than Harrison Bryant. So I assume that means they like him a little bit more, but we're talking like $500,000. But yeah, it's strange to me in the fact that they do. Even Adoree Jackson, you mentioned him at corner, but he's somewhat proven. You know, it makes sense. Azeez Ojulari has some upside. Josh Uche's had at least some success at edge, and they've done it pretty good. Even getting a reclamation project like Kenyon Green to make sure somebody's pushing Tyler Steen, or Matt Pryor started a whole season, and bringing him back. That worst case scenario. They have these insurance policies everywhere. And I guess Howie's argument was that's what they are. But boy, I don't know. Maybe it's because of Dallas. How good was Dallas in the postseason?
Right. I mean, the stiff arm against the Packers, I think, will always be memorable, but he helps the run game significantly when he's out there. He's a really good blocker. When Dallas Goedert's healthy, he's been incredible. And but that's the thing that's caught up to him is the injuries, which to them, maybe that's what's made him expendable here. I mean, they have guys they're going to want to pay, and they're going to have to make some tough choices. And the guy,
I think that's fair. And by the way, you bring up the Green Bay play. I'm surprised he didn't get hurt on it. That's part of the problem with Dallas. Sometimes he's too physical and he's too aggressive.
Be unreliable. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But it's funny, as the Eagles' offense has changed, it's almost like he's become more the perfect tight end for them than he was in the past because he does everything pretty well. And you just don't find that in tight ends often. So, that's my worry. Are they going to approach this thing by a committee approach? They're going to get pass catching from Calcaterra and blocking from one of Bryant or Granson. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a good plan to me, but I think it's Goedert. Do you think it's Goedert holding out more than the Eagles? Because I think they'd like to get him back, but they probably want a year or two. He probably wants 3 or 4 because it's his last chance to cash in.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I mean, he's got no guaranteed money left on his contract. So if he's not getting the offer that he wants, which I imagine he is not, I think there's a good chance. And there's been teams who are going to be interested in Dallas Goedert. I saw the report from Jordan Renan of ESPN saying even the Giants have checked in on Dallas Goedert. There's going to be a market there. This is a pretty strong tight end class. I agree with John on that. But there's going to be teams that are going to be left out of that market. They're not going to be able – some guys are going to go in the early second round or early third round, and some of these teams are going to be left out of the market that need a tight end. And maybe on day 3, that's when – because I don't know if you're getting more than a day 3 pick for Dallas Goedert. So it's not a situation I think you're getting a ton of value if you're the Eagles and you keep holding on to them.
All right, day 3 pick, Gunnar Helm or Mitchell Evans? What's your preference for the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's tough. I think they're kind of like in the same bucket. I mean, Gunnar Helm, I think, was considered a better prospect probably coming into the process, but I know that he had the ankle thing at the combine, but the numbers didn't look great. He's not a great athlete overall, but I think he's passable and he's really good after the catch. Mitchell Evans also I think has some pass catching upside. I'd probably go Gunnar Helm because I do think his ability after the catch to break tackles is more of a standout trait than anything that Mitchell Evans has. I wouldn't be thrilled with Gunnar Helm. Like, I think if you drafted him in the 4th round, I don't know if he's like your long-term starting type.
No, he's not. But John said they're in the same bucket. That bucket's a shit bucket is what it is, Caden. I mean, come on, man.
Caden said bucket.
What are we talking about here? We're losing Dallas Goedert for Gunnar Helm? Oh, God.
Caden said day 3, so I'm being realistic.
No,
day 3.
They are realistic on day 3. I agree.
It might be a possibility where, maybe Xander, maybe you're correct. Maybe they add a rookie in the 3rd or 4th round who's definitely not a surefire full-time starter type, but, he's got some traits they like. And maybe this is a position they go forward where they have 2 guys. Maybe one guy's not, an elite player, but they have 2 solid players with different skill sets. And maybe they run more. No, I'm not saying they run more 12 personnel, but they use just different tight ends for different skill sets. Right. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm undervaluing the tight end position, but I think there's a possibility that you can get away with that. If you can find a guy who's a really good blocker, who has a certain skill set, and a guy who has, some pass catching upside.
I agree with you because the bottom line is I worry about the piecemeal approach because, you're giving away your tendency. Oh, this guy's on the field, they're going to throw it. This guy's on the field, they're going to run it. You got to worry about that. But guess what, Caden? Most of the teams you're playing are stupid anyway. They're not going to pick up on that. were not coached well. So, I mean, that kind of takes care of itself, to be honest. I don't worry about that as much as I used to because teams just don't take advantage of it. So, I mean, it's one of those things in the offseason. You think about it, and it looks in the laboratory, it looks, oh, this is bad. But then when you're out on the field, nobody takes advantage of it. Nobody recognizes it, or very few do. So it ends up not being that big of a deal. But I just like talented players. So, I mean, they're giving up a great tight end and presumably going with a bunch of, Walmart clearance aisle guys.
Yeah. The reason I think it's going to be tough to replace him specifically in this draft is because, like, I've seen some people mock Mason Taylor at 32. I think that's a little too rich for my liking. If you really love Mason Taylor or Elijah Aurora, I think you could trade back similar to what you did in 2018, like 15 picks.
With Dallas. Yeah.
Yes. But I think there's a strong possibility Elijah Aurora and Mason Taylor don't get the 64, though. So then you're going to have to trade up.
Yeah. I don't think they can afford to do that, though, because they have to repopulate the defensive front.
That's what I mean. I agree.
Completely. They just do. Like I've said this pretty consistently. I want to get your thought on it. There is no flipping way they're going into next season with Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt or Azeez Ojulari as the starting edge rushers. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think they're not going into the year, at least without another pass rusher or two in that rotation. I think they're going to definitely draft one within the first 2 rounds. I feel pretty confident about that, whether that's in the first or second round. I feel good about Nolan Smith, what I saw last year, especially as a run defender. I think you feel confident about him as a starter. I'm not as confident with Jalen Hunt yet, even though we saw flashes. I think the sample size is still pretty small, but I think you can feel good about him being a high-end rotational rusher. Azeez Ojulari obviously has starting talent, but I mean, we talk about Dallas Goedert's injury history. His injury history dates back to high school. So, I mean, I don't know if you can feel confident that Azeez Ojulari is going to be available more than 10 games next year. Josh Uche, I mean.
Oh, man. You say Uche and you laugh at him, Caden. Oh, man.
I think there's upside. I mean, I believe in Vic Fangio. He's proven to me that he can get the most out of a player that didn't do much previously. I mean,
everybody believes in Vic. Everybody believes in Vic.
Yeah. But it's still going to be difficult to get Josh.
By the way, except Eagles fans leading up to the Super Bowl who all said Spagnuolo was better. I tried to warn them.
Well, Spags is a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. I mean,
that was Vic.
I agree. There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no
We're
doubt.
forgetting about Bryce Huff. No, I don't. I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, I don't feel good about this edge room. I think there's a solid floor potentially. Like if all things work out, like Azeez Ojulari stays healthy and Josh Uche somehow goes back to being what he's in 2022, and Jalen Hunt takes an even bigger step, this edge rush room can be really good. But I don't know if you want to bank on that, especially when this class is loaded with edge rushers all the way down to like round 3 or 4. Like I think you can find impact players. So I think they should go heavy on D line. I think
I'm with you. I'm adding at least 2 bodies, in the first 2 days.
I agree. And I probably add 3 or 4. I mean, maybe not 4, but at least add 3 during the entire class. Like I think you get.
Oh yeah, day 3. If Elijah Roberts is a guy they've looked at, if he falls to day 3, Tyler Barron. I'm tripling down.
Yeah, maybe they get an edge, and maybe they can get a defensive tackle who has some pass rush juice who can kind of, slide into what Mora Joma was last year. I also think they could look at, I mean, they brought in Tyleik Williams. I don't know if they'll go that direction, but maybe on day 3, they add a bigger.
I'll tell you what, if they go Tyleik Williams, Caden, you know what that means.
Yeah,
Jordan Davis is out after next season.
Yeah, I don't expect them to go that route to Tyleik Williams, but
no, either do I.
They need a backup nose. I mean, I don't think they have a body type on this roster that if Jordan Davis did get hurt.
I agree with you, but they don't play it enough to invest that much into. I mean, Jordan Davis. Everybody says Jordan Davis doesn't play enough. What do you think? You're going to invest a 2nd round pick in Williams?
I guess
to be a backup.
you can find that maybe as a late day 3 UDFA type who's a big body that you can just stash on the practice squad. Or
they've tried Noah Ellis, guys like that. They brought in these big body guys, but just because you're big doesn't mean you can be a nose tackle.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Caden, last question for me, brother. You can trade up, you can trade back. The first pick of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles draft will be, who do you got? I'm putting you on the spot.
Due to the edge rush class being so deep, and same with the defensive tackle class, I think it's tough. It's tough. I think there's a lot of different possibilities, but the one I'll go with is Donovan Azaraku falling to 32 or being within range of so they could trade up from 32 to 28, 27. I don't know if those teams will want to move down in this draft, but if they can, I think they can get up and get a guy like Azaraku, who I think right away is going to be an impactful pass rusher in the NFL because he's got what it takes. I know he's a little undersized, but I mean, he's got all the tools that you want from him. He's got a ghost move. He's got good bend.
I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he's polished. He's a lot more fundamental than some of the other guys who just rely on, straight athleticism, who run around other guys. But I like that. Good pick there, Caden. Good stuff, brother. We appreciate you joining in. Make sure you guys follow Caden. Caden, I don't have your username pulled up.
It is at Caden _Steele 19. That's too typical. You got to change that. At Caden Steele.
I made that when I was 19, so
I mean, your last name is Steele. That's a pretty sweet last name.
Oh yeah, he's got like a Marvel universe name.
Are you kidding me? This name could be in the NFL draft next week. Caden Steele. I mean, that's a money name.
That's a 3rd round pick. Caden
right
Steele.
there. There you go. Caden, good stuff, man. We appreciate you.
Read him at NJ.com. Caden does a great job. And was that your first Howie pre-draft press conference, or were you there last year?
I didn't go last year, so that was my first one.
All right. Yeah. Exciting, isn't it?
He didn't give you much, did he?
But yeah, check Caden out, NJ.com, at Caden _Steele 19. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caden. There's Caden Steele joining us here on Birds 365. Great job by Caden today. Always a great job to get Caden up here. John, just a week out from this draft, man. 5 minutes left on this Thursday edition of Birds 365. Boy, I know you said the season wasn't going fast. Does the offseason feel like it's going fast for you? I feel like we're cooking weeks, Johnny Mac. I mean, it's already Thursday.
No. I got a lot of draft prep I got to do, which bogs me down. So not going as fast for me. But, yeah, it's a very fast offseason because, I mean, the Super Bowl, it just went so deep so far. So you're right back into it. You don't even have a break. But that's the goal because you want to win, and the Eagles won, and they're right back into the draft process. And, Caden gave you his thoughts. I'm starting to think Azaraku's not going to fall to the Eagles. I hear a lot of Tampa Bay hype around him, and that would be way out of their range. 7 days out, I'll probably change 57 times, but right now I'm thinking trade down for Nick Scorton. That's what I'm thinking.
You like the bigger edge, Nick Scorton. We'll see what they end up doing there. Appreciate everybody.
Not taking him at 32, though.
No,
more of a trade down scenario.
If you had a guess, where do you think they'd end up? Where do you think they'll make their first pick?
38 to 40-ish. I do think there's a good chance there's going to be a team that would want to come back in for one of the quarterbacks. So they might get that opportunity again. And I think the value matches up, and it offers you, it's not only a good player and he's got some versatility, he can even play inside a little bit, but it gives you a trait you don't have too. They're so light at edge rusher right now. I think it's a good fit because he offers both. He's a bit from a football standpoint. It gives you a trait you don't currently have to set the edge a little bit better. I think he'd make a lot of sense for the Eagles.
We'll see what they end up doing there, Johnny Mac. John, we're a week out, man. I'm not feeling the excitement overall yet, but I thought Caden did a good job.
There's some draft guys like the Chekos that way. They love the draft.
Yeah, they love the draft.
They're not as cynical as me because they're much younger, so they haven't been through it as many times. And it's like, oof, this is a top of this class. Just is.
I do think there's going to be a lot of starters in this draft. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I think, and that's the good part for the Eagles. I think this draft, you're going to make your hay from like 20 to 50. Whereas like if I'm in the top 10 of this draft, bottom of the top 10, I'm like almost pissed.
Right.
Like you want to get a big time potential player in the top 10. And there's probably, other than Carter and Hunter, and even Hunter, I'm questionable because of the issues of where's he going to play, how's he going to play, how are you going to do it, and then Tyler Warren to me is the safest pick. You really want to take a tight end in the top 10? Well, yeah, if you want one of the best players, you're going to have to. Same thing with Ashton Genty. See a top 10 pick? You should be from just the talent. And I don't know if you saw his Players Tribune thing.
Yeah, I read that. That was dope. A lot of Saquon Barkley in there.
Well, that's the point, dude. You ain't going to a team with the Eagles offensive line. I would tone it down. That's the whole problem with running backs. It's like,
yeah, I don't think it was much about that. I think he was more trying to show him how confident, I guess, he is as a player. You're right. I mean, he's not going to have an offensive line, but
yeah, they're not bringing. Saquon was Saquon in New York. Same dude.
Ashton Genty going to the Cowboys. He's a Cowboys pick. He is such a Cowboys pick.
They've already done it with Zeke, and he'll be a good player. But again, they're not in a position to where it's going to be Saquon Barkley.
All right, ready? The Dallas Cowboys make a trade for Tyreek Hill, and then they draft Ashton Genty. What does that do for your projection on them in the 2025 season?
That's going to excite people to no end.
Yes, it will.
Splash players, skill position players. That will increase the hype immeasurably around the Dallas Cowboys. And they're good players. Tyreek Hill's maybe not the best human being, but he's a really good player. Am I going to be fearful of the Dallas Cowboys? No. It just again proves you don't know what you're doing. You're not building the team correctly. You just lost Zach Martin. You just lost, not just, but because Tyron Smith came back and retired as a Cowboy. For many years, the Cowboys had one of the best offensive lines in football. And now they've started the attrition, and they got to rebuild that thing back up. And no surprise they're not doing it the right way because of who runs that organization.
They like the headlines, Johnny Mac. Tyreek Hill and Ashton Genty is
that would create
glory, baby.
Yeah,
that is like the greatest headline haul in the history of headline hauls there for Cowboys. So I could see it happening. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thoughts on this Thursday edition, and then we'll wrap up the week tomorrow on a Football Friday. We'll be 6 days away from the NFL draft come tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I don't know why, but you brought up Tyreek, and I'm thinking Mike McDaniel, he's a dead man walking. That team's going to be a disaster in Miami. And
it's funny though. I mean, I'm not the biggest Tua guy, even though I went to Bama in terms of the pros, but they haven't been awful when he's healthy. He just hasn't been healthy that much.
Well, he's not getting healthy either.
I know.
So I mean, Tua's interesting because he's like got the quick release. He's very accurate, but if that first read isn't there,
Yeah. He struggles. He struggles for sure. All right, Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We will catch you tomorrow on a Football Friday edition of Birds 365. Always love a Football Friday. Maybe it's an effort. No, it can't be an effort Friday tomorrow. We got. It's Good Friday.
Oh, it's Good Friday. Yeah, I got to clean up the language for Good Friday.
No way.
It's a WrestleMania Friday.
Oh yeah, WrestleMania is this week. They had to make it during Easter. Really? Come on. I guess they don't care about that, do they?
$5 million. That's why. That's Las Vegas specifically gave them $5 million
to do it this weekend.
Because it's not typically
Their best weekend, right?
Exactly. So
There you
that's your answer.
Money talks, baby. Money, and is it on Netflix? WrestleMania.
Peacock, Netflix internationally. So if you're going to be out of the country, you can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
In the country, Peacock.
Yeah. I may or may not be out of the country. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going anywhere.
You're in Thailand, and your lady boy appointment.
Yeah, that $5 went a long way, man. That flight is in my cart on Google Flights. So thank you for the $5. We're sending Johnny Mac to lady boy land. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We'll catch you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen. And a great show today. Thanks to Caden Steele for joining. We appreciate Caden from NJ.com. I happen to be a big fan of Caden Steele. He's a good guy, doing a good job as a young reporter in the NFL and covering the Philadelphia Eagles for NJ.com. So appreciate him. What's going on, everybody in the chat? I got to be quick today. on Zander time. But we got some giveaways. I'm going to do a giveaway today. I might do 1 today and 3 tomorrow instead of 2 and 2 because I'm in a little bit of a time crunch on this Thursday. All right, it's a beautiful Thursday in the land. We're 7 days out from the NFL draft, 7 days out from improving the Philadelphia Eagles football team. All right, we're in good shape. We are in good shape, everybody. I'm going to ask everybody in the chat right now, all right? Everybody in the chat, I need you all to check in. Who is your dream first pick for the Philadelphia Eagles a week from today? Who is your dream first pick? Come on, put him in the chat. Who is your dream top pick? James Jones, you can give me your top pick for the communist, the Washington Communist. Can you guys imagine being a fan of a sports team that goes by the Communist? Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, we're the Eagles. We're the bird of America, the freedom bird. Are you kidding me? Pull up a picture of an eagle and look how dominant and beastly they are. And they got to be fans of the communist. The Commanders. Sounds like a first grade team name at recess. A first grade recess team. The Commanders. We got the Eagles. Curtis, good question. What's up, Curtis? Curtis, I wasn't attacking you yesterday. You thought I was attacking you. I wasn't attacking you. I'll address that on Cilio later today. Curtis says, Z, 5 years from now, will this draft class return to the mean or still be considered trash still? Curtis, you sound like John McMullen. Are you listening to too much McMullen? Return to the mean, he says. I catch myself using that too. All right. I catch myself using that too. But I don't think it'll be considered trash. No, I think there's plenty of good starters in here. I think most of it, the hype is just about that top 10, you know. There's just not that many good dudes there. And, you know, it's not as exciting because of that. But the other thing is, Curtis, I totally think we're slanted in Philly this year because of, look, we won the Super Bowl. Like, if you lose the Super Bowl, you're like, all right, how do we get a player to get us back there? Right? Like, you're so close, you want it that much more. When you win, you're like, we could do no wrong. You know, like you have that almost entitled feel of like the team is so damn good, you know. But I hear you. Dream pick, Abdul Carter. Can we be realistic, please? Let's get some dream picks here. All right. Not all of you guys saying Abdul Carter. All right. Let me rephrase because I don't want to hear your dream pick about wanting Abdul Carter. Yeah, I know. We all want the #1 overall pick in the draft. But your realistic top pick, all right, for this year's draft. Maybe it's a trade back and you take him in the 30s. Maybe it's a trade up, you take him in the late 20s. Give me a realistic dream pick. You said dream. All right, Daz. What are we? You want to argue technicalities all day now, Daz? Good night. Good night, Daz. Don't go insufferable on me, Daz. Dre, what's up, Dre? Donovan Izaraku. I like it. I like Izaraku. Mike Green, Walter Nolan, or James Pierce. Abe, you and I are on the same page, my friend. I like all 3 of those players. I also like Malachi. You guys are winning me over on Malachi. I always liked the player. I was having a hard time believing the Eagles would draft him, But after looking at these top 30 visits, they're clearly interested. They're clearly interested. Brandon Howard says Starks, Nolan, Nick Scorton trade back. I don't know. I'm not quite as high on Scorton, but I could see him being good. I don't hate that. Nolan or Starks, good picks there. Seems like everybody's kind of clumping into the same couple of guys. It's Nolan, it's Starks, it's Pierce, it's Ezeraku. We'll see what they do. Thank you, Boulevard. Yo, Boulevard, congrats on your wedding coming up, bro. I saw your post. I didn't know that was happening in your life. God bless you. Hope everything goes well with you and your beautiful future wife, I guess she will be. And congratulations to you, my man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Texas T says, Nolan, what's up, Texas T? I like Nolan. I'm big on Walter Nolan. Curtis, you said dream. I know what I said, Curtis. I know what I said. I'm going to miss the giveaway. Dang. Wow. You ain't even a member. Rich, did you buy the bricks? You're saving $5 a month. Did you at least buy the bricks? I'll feel better about it if you did. Did you pick up the brick by bricks, brother? Man, I don't want Pierce, bro. I'm so nervous he's going to be a bust. Brandon, you've been on this. You know, the one thing, Brandon, I'll say that you're right on is he's a little bit more of a project than people think. Just because of he's relied so much on being the best athlete or being able to run around everybody, you know, to have production. I do wonder, what's it going to be like, you know, when you go up against NFL offensive linemen, NFL tackles? You know, you're going to have to develop that second move. You're going to have to develop some of that stuff. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do. I don't think Pierce is going to be a bust, though. Like, I think it might take him a couple years or a year or two, or maybe like how about this, Brandon? Could it take Pierce like Nolan Smith, right? He didn't come on right away. Now that he's starting to learn how to play in the NFL, he's starting to learn, you know, how to get around NFL tackles. He's coming along. I could see that with Pierce. SB Ricky, what's up, my brother? Hope you're doing well. He got the brick by bricks. All right. Rich, SB Ricky got the brick by bricks. Man, those things dropped over a month ago, and I'm still wishing I had them. SB Ricky, give me Nolan or Starks. I like him, bro. I like it. Nolan is such a Howie pick. It is. Pumper, I agree with you. Pierce is a beast. If he's there, you take him. I would take him. I agree. With the cap and losing Milton, Nolan def feels like a Howie pick. I agree with that. Anthony Perry, what's up, my brother? Hope you're doing well. Nolan or Starks, he says. Yeah, we're all clumped in. Does anybody have a different pick? Work took away headphones. Bro, they're clamping down on the podcast listeners. If that happens across every workforce in America, JAKIB will struggle. A lot of our great viewers here listen at work. We appreciate you. Where do I think Tyler Warren will go? I could see Tyler Warren being top 10. He's definitely a top 10 talent, Albright. But where will he go? I'd say no later than 12, no later than 13, somewhere in that range. I don't know. You guys think like the Cowboys would pick him? You think the Cowboys would pick him? Nick Emenwari. I'm sorry. I don't love this player. I would not take Nick Emenwari. I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I'm not making a proclamation like that, but I am saying I think people are a little too high on him because of the athleticism, because of the combine, because of the traits. And I put on his game tape. I see missed tackles. I see blown coverages. I see lack of instinct. I don't see any of the things I would want in a starting safety. Now, maybe his ceiling is higher, but his floor is also lower. Milrow, just for the shock value. All right, Fly Eagles, you're trying to stir the pot. You got a little Cilio in you, don't you? Zander, Cowboys also gave Vatek running back an interview. I'm not sure who the Virginia Tech running back is. Which guy has the abuse allegations? That's Mike Green from Marshall, Curtis. BMW clamping down. SB Ricky, you hate to see it. Good job, though, bro. Keep working hard, man. Keep working hard. All right? Keep working hard. It's a good thing to do as a man in life. All right? Not many people want to do that anymore. Work your ass off. Grind your ass off. All right? Put on. Take care of your family. Do what you got to do, brother. We appreciate you being here. All right? Thank you, bro. How about the best name for Cilio to give a nickname for? I think Izaraku's a good one because he'll come up with some sort of crazy Uchida Kuchida Uchidi and the Izaraku, something crazy for Cilio will come up with. Starks isn't a good one for a nickname. I think Izaraku is probably the best one. What do you think? Amika Abuka. I could see that. It's Curtis. Are you rewinded? Click live, brother. You're rewinded. You're rewinded. It's Mike Green. It's Mike Green from Marshall. And by the way, the player's insane. I think he's gonna be a great player. Z, which all right, I already got that. Where's the dude who said, what's my last comment? Let me look for it, Dre. I think Genty will go too high for us, but I think he'd be a fantastic fit despite lack of need. Dre, your dream pick can't be Ashton Genty, is it? We are the running back factory. Nah, we're not taking him. We don't need him, Dre. Stop it. Remember Sills called Reddick a milk carton man? Well, he was a milk carton. At the start of the year, when he was calling him a milk carton, he was in those first couple of games. But that's when I think he was wearing the cast, right? I think that's when he was wearing the cast. Sills is funny. Yeah, I'll say. I think he's hilarious. I can't wait to debate Cilio today. We got a good debate plan today because yesterday we were talking. We had a good conversation. And then after he brought up the Chase Daniel thing where you would start a franchise, and he has like Jalen down at like 8. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Excuse my French. It's Holy Thursday. I got to stop with the cursing, but man, I got a bad habit. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? How's that? Is that better? Are you freaking kidding me? 8? Like, dude, all right. If you want to argue 2 versus 5, or you think he's 5 or 6, like I can make that argument. You're putting Justin Herbert. Come on, man. Come on, man. Sills won't stand a chance. Makes for great content. I love going back and forth with Sills, man. We got good. Me and Sills have good camaraderie. All right, I think our segment's one of the better ones on JAKIB. I love doing that segment with him. All right. All right, Dre. Yeah, Dre, I remember you saying that. You're a newer football fan. Last couple of years, right? You became a fan. I don't know if you grew up in Philly or what, or why you chose the Eagles. But you've only been a football fan for a couple of years. Maybe that's why you think Genty would be a good pick for us. Nah, they wouldn't do that, Dre. They wouldn't do that. All right. But I hear you. Seeing Saquon break an all-time record my second NFL season, it makes me like running backs. Yeah, they should. Caleb, this is where I got him, bro. Jalen Hurts, number 2 QB in the NFL. Go Birds. Well, I have him as number 2 of who I would take to start a franchise with. I have him 2 to 3. If someone told me that they would take – here's the thing, Caleb. I have him 2. I am not one of the people who thinks you're insane for having him 5. All right? Like, if you have Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Lamar, I don't agree with you, but I can see your logic. I think those guys are great players. I'm not taking anything away from those guys. Give me Jalen. I'll take Jalen Hurts. I'll take the guy that wins. I'll take the guy that has the resume, that has the track record. You know, the funniest thing about the Jalen debate to me is like everybody's like, well, Jalen wins because of the roster, but none of the other quarterbacks win. Like, if Jalen wins because of the roster, all right, why doesn't Josh Allen win? Because of the lack of roster? So you're saying every quarterback needs a good roster to win. So why is that being used to take away from what Jalen Hurts is? If it's all roster, why isn't Burrow one? Why isn't Allen one? Why isn't Lamar one? Why isn't Justin Herbert one? Oh, wait. Roster matters for every effing quarterback. Oh, wait. Every quarterback needs a good roster. That's the stupidest argument ever against Jalen Hurts. All right. Hey, what's up, A? He says, I hear you, Xander, but that logic takes too long for them to grasp. You're right. Sigler says, why does Kyler Murray get no criticism? He plays in Arizona, dude. Nobody gives a shit about anything out there. They'll go and bask in the 108-degree weather. They don't give a crap about anything. Kyler Murray stinks. Talk about teams you'd build a franchise with. Can I put him like 32? Kyler Murray. I would never take him, bro. I would never take him. Yeah, Burrow is nice, Abe. Burrow is probably the most talented thrower of the football in the game today. And honestly, it might not be close. Might not be close. Just from a raw, like, quarterback talent standpoint of standing in the pocket, dissecting a defense, and lighting the lamp, Joe Burrow is probably the top dog. Probably the top dog. All right. Yeah, but good point, Perry. And Mahomes needs a better line. Ask him. Is that part of the roster? Yeah, right. Burrow is a better Brady. I don't want to go that far. He's accurate. He's not a better Brady. Brady had the winning intangible. All right. Caleb, what's up, my dog? Hope you're doing well. I think I missed a couple of supers. I'll read them all now. Caleb says Lamar had 6X All-Pro, 3X Josh Allen had the best duo. People were saying at one point Diggs, Gabe Davis. Well, I don't know if anybody called them the best duo. Gabe effing Davis. Why? Because he had 4 touchdowns in a playoff game. Gabe Davis is a solid player. Gabe Davis is nowhere near a top wide receiver in the NFL. Joe is an amazing tandem and missed the playoffs. Yeah, exactly, Caleb. Right, exactly. Jalen Hurts wins because of his roster. Okay, that's fine. Why doesn't Joe Burrow win? Because of his roster. So you need a good roster to win? Oh, okay, good. You just disputed your own argument. I don't think people realize that they talk in circles on that. I don't think people realize they talk in circles on that. Every quarterback needs a good roster, except maybe Mahomes. Like, you could make this argument. You could make the argument that Josh Allen's Buffalo roster has been better than the Chiefs roster the last 2 years. Would anybody agree or disagree with that? Josh Allen's roster in Buffalo has been better than Patrick Mahomes' roster in Kansas City. Agree or disagree? For the last 2 years. Agree or disagree? James Jones says, I agree. Pat has had Travis his whole career. Come on, Zane. Jalen is A.J. Brown. I don't use that against him. I'm not using that against Mahomes. Even Mahomes needs a roster. Josh B says, I agree. Jason A-Team says, yes. Wilfredo says, agree. All right, good. Glad we're on the same page. What was the question again, Zay? Who has had the better roster the last 2 years? Josh Allen's Bills roster or the Chiefs roster with Mahomes? Which roster has been better? At times when Gabe Davis and Diggs was playing, they definitely was calling them one of the best. Yeah, and I'm saying those takes were stupid. But no, Diggs was good when he was in Buffalo, no doubt. No doubt. But again, quarterback matters. Just having a good roster does not guarantee you go to the Super Bowl or you win a lot of games. Like, that's where I'm dumbfounded with Jalen Hurts. You can honestly say, yes, he has a good roster. I agree with that, and I'm proud of that. We're Eagles fans. We want a good roster, all right? That's great. Do you think any quarterback could just be slotted in and win the same amount of games? That's where I think it's crazy. Like, come on. All-star teams have never won at all. If the best team always won or the best roster always won, football would be boring and stupid. Like, come on. Come on. Here's Pumper. With the 32nd overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles draft Jeffrey Dahmer. JK, we going to O-line, man, so you fools in the chat, relax. Why y'all hating on my boy Caden? Huh? Why are a bunch of anonymous people with anonymous names and anonymous pictures hating on my boy Caden? All right? You can hate on me, but don't be hating on my boy Caden. All right? Hate on me. Don't hate on Caden. I thought Caden did a good job today. All right, I got all the super chats. Good stuff. Let me do a giveaway. I'm going to do one giveaway today. All right, one giveaway today. I got to be quick. I got to run. I got to be quick. I got to run. All right, I got a place to be. Any Phillies fans? Any Phillies fans in the chat? What's going on, bro? What are we thinking? What are we, 18 games in? I think we're 10-8. Starting pitching has been solid outside of Nola. Bullpen stinks. Same problems with the hitting. Leaving guys stranded. Lack of small ball. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. The problem with the Phillies is that all the problems that you thought coming into the year are still permeating. You know, they're still there. They're still obvious. The approach is Zeal. Don't even get me started on the approach, dude. It drives me crazy. My dad's an old school baseball guy. Loves baseball. He's always loved baseball his whole life. You know, and he just watching the game. I love watching the games with him when we get the chance to watch it. And the approach is brutal. It really is. Rojas and Marsh are. I don't even know if they're MLB players, dude. They're not even MLB players. bases loaded, no outs, no hits, not even a sac fly. It's like, yo, who's teaching these guys plate? You don't even need to be a great hitter to manage that situation, right? Put your bat on a ball. But this team has a real love of, I don't know, everybody wants to hit the long ball. Chicks dig the long ball, they say. All right. Who's betting on the baseball game? I don't know, Abe. Meh, baseball. I love baseball, Mark Anthony. It's a great sport, man. It's a great sport. I do. I love baseball. All right, let me pull up this member list. I got to run, so let me do this quick. Like if I have like 10 names pulled and none of them are here, like I'm pushing the giveaway to tomorrow. Like I got to run. I got to be out of here in 8 minutes. All right. I got to be out of here in 8 minutes. Start. Nope. I'm downloading it. Sorry. Putting the cart before the horse. Curtis checks in. What's up, Curtis? Brandon, it's all good. I'll try and pull one now. If I don't get it, I'll do it tomorrow. Curtis says, Z, what I push back on is I don't think winning has to look a certain way. Like you were saying, bullying teams was fun to watch. Yeah, Curtis, I was more saying like, I'm happy you said that because that is part of what I was saying. But I do think teams like, or people have like a prototype for what they want a quarterback to look like. And that's fine. You can have that prototype. And a lot of it is data driven or, just driven off of what you've seen be successful in your years of watching football. That's fine. But because Jalen doesn't look like that, I think people hold it against him. Versus me, it's like I can acknowledge Jalen didn't look or didn't play the position like I expected the position to be played in Philly, but his way has worked better than any other quarterback we've had in Philly. So, like, that to me is enough for me to say, I'm taking that guy. I'm taking that guy. Intangibles matter more to me than others. I do not believe that talent is the sole thing you need to win football games. I don't. Especially not just win football games. I'm talking about win Super Bowls. I'm talking about be a champion consistently. Did you hear? Question for you all. Did you hear the Derek Jeter comments on Jalen Hurts? Did anybody see them? Did anybody see the Derek Jeter comments on Jalen Hurts? Yeah. A says yes. Philly to Chicago says yes. Nope. What did he say? I'll tell you in a second, Curtis. Jason A-Team says yes. Have a great day. Daz, love your brother. Hope you have a great day. Appreciate you being here. Abe says I did. Yeah, that's why he's my quarterback. Yeah, no, that was a good comment. So Jeter was talking about how he had a conversation with Jalen Hurts after he won the Super Bowl. And Jalen was asking him, how do I get back? Like Jeter won, obviously, multiple World Series. Jalen was asking him, all right, I've won. How do I get back? How do I prepare to go win more? What do I have to do to get back to the Super Bowl? It's a hard thing to do. Not many get back. Just a different breed, man. He's just a different cat all around. He really is a total different breed of dude. All right. A totally different breed of dude. And I'll take that over pretty passing or over Justin Herbert. He's one of the best throwers I've ever seen. That dude threw 4 fucking picks when the lights got bright. He legitimately threw 4 picks when the lights got bright. Why do you want that guy? Why? Because he looks pretty in the regular season? I just don't think like that. Even Lamar, same thing. Lamar, the greatest regular season quarterback we've ever seen. He's a shrinking violet in the playoffs. He's a shrinking violet in the playoffs. And I like Lamar. But good night. Give me the dude that shows up when you need him to show up. Give me the dude that's played 2 of his best games of his career in the damn Super Bowl. That's what I want. That's what I want. All right. And that's where I think the ego comes in, right, Curtis? Of like, people just want what they want. They want the quarterback to look like what they want or expect a quarterback to look like or what they deem as an elite quarterback. Versus I'll take the dude that's been the winningest quarterback in Eagles history, the guy that took us to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, the guy that won us a Super Bowl, the guy that returned to a Super Bowl after losing his first, and the list of people that never returned. Like, the dude clearly has something that allows the team to win games at a crazy high rate. If you can't quantify that, that's not my problem. I'm not going to use it to take away from what the guy is, though. I'll take him number 2 in the league. And yes, argue with the wall. I don't care. I don't care. You can tell me Joe Burrow is more talented. Fine. My quarterback evaluations aren't all talent. Again, I'm not one of the people who will think you're crazy. Like, if you say, I want to take Burrow and Allen over him, I'm not going to call you nuts. But I'm taking Jalen over them. The only guy I'd take over Jalen right now would be Mahomes, because I'd seen Mahomes lead a team and win multiple Super Bowls with a roster that I don't necessarily deem as that great of a roster. So, again, Mahomes obviously has something that allows him to win and allows the team to win at the unprecedented level that they've won at. Number 1. Jalen Hurts, number 2. That's my take. Again, don't think you're crazy if you don't take him 2. I think you're crazy if you take him 8. I mean, Cilio legitimately said he'd rather start a franchise with Justin Herbert. Think about that. Strictly because people say, oh, he's got a talented thrower of the football. But the guy threw 4 effing picks in the playoff game. I don't want that guy. I don't want to build my franchise around that guy. I don't want to start a franchise with that guy. If the goal is ultimately to go and win a Super Bowl one day, I don't want that dude. I don't. If you do, then so be it. So be it. Oh, it's 28. I got to go. Fuck. Come on. All right, let me do this. We're going to do a 1 poll here. Let me see if we can get a winner. All right, we're doing a regular winner today. We're not doing a legend. I'll do 2 legends tomorrow. All right, 2 legends tomorrow. So don't sleep on it. 2 legends tomorrow. 368 total members right now. Big thank you to all of you guys. It's true, Abe. That's true. And who played the best in those games? You could argue that in Jalen Hurts' 2 Super Bowl games, he's been superior in those games as a quarterback to what even Patrick Mahomes has been in his Super Bowls. I'm not taking away from Mahomes. I told you, Mahomes is the number 1 guy to build a team around right now. But if you watch Mahomes in the Super Bowls, even the ones that he won, he hasn't really been like that great. Now, again, just like I told you, talent isn't everything. Playing great in those games isn't everything. Sometimes knowing your way around the game, sometimes knowing the situation you're in, sometimes knowing when to hand the ball off, when to throw big passing yards, when to do those things, that all matters. But Jalen has been insane in his 2 Super Bowls. Legitimately 2 of the best games of his career. Like, bro, that means something. To get to that game and to play like that 2 straight times, if you don't see the value in that, I'm not sure you've ever played organized sports in your life. Because when those lights get bright, that's where you separate the men from the boys. That's where you separate the men from the boys. All right, here we go. Let's bring this up. Come on, I got to run. Start. Thank you to all of our members. 1 shuffle for Jalen Hurts. Come on, we need a winner. Give me a winner. 5. John Love. Sounds like a name that's not here. Sounds like a name that's not here. John, are you out there? John, are you out there? John Love, are you out there? The Love Doctor. John Love, are you here? Who the hell is John Love? I have no idea. Done and dusted. Get him out of here. Moving to tomorrow. I'm going to try and wrap it a couple. It's 10:31. All right. It's 10:31. All right. Come on. Uh-oh, what is this, frozen over here now? You guys see this? There we go. Oh, God. Oh, wait. Confirm. One shuffle. Start. Come on. I'll get as many as I can pulled in the next couple of minutes. Hopefully we get a winner. 3, 2, 1. Joe Whip. The greatness of Joe Whip. He's been waiting for a W for a while. Joe, are you out there? I think he left. Didn't he say he was going to the golf course like an hour ago? Yo, Joe, I remember he commented in the chat today. He said, I'm going to the links. Have a good day, everyone. Retired Joe Whip is on the golf course on this Thursday afternoon. It's frozen again. You can see the confetti stop falling. I don't know what's going on with my damn computer. Yeah, that's my next thing. I got it. All my tech stuff is crap now. I got to buy all new stuff. I got to spend $5 to $10 grand on just studio setup. I need a new mic. I need a new computer. I need a new soundboard. I want nightmare. That's all right. I'll buy it all eventually. Stay on your grind. Z. Respect your work. Hey, thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you, dog. Yeah, I might give it to Joe. You know, here's the thing I owe Joe. I want to tell everybody. So you guys, who watched my parade coverage? Did anybody check in or see or at least like knew what we did around the parade? Did you guys check in on that, man? Did you guys check in on that? Joe was like a huge help, man. Like for real. Like he got there I got there at 4:45 in the morning in Philly, which was dope, by the way. I watched all the people parade in the city. It's like my favorite thing. I love the city, man. I love being down in the city and watching all the people in that environment. I still think so fondly of that day, that parade day. It was such a fun day, man. But Joe got there at like, I want to say 6:15, 6:30. He took an early ass train. I think he just wanted to kind of get ahead of everybody. But bro, he got there. He's helping me set up. He's helping run the internet cord. He's helping set up the setup. He's helping set up my Starlink. Like he did so much shit for me. I was like, Joe, thank you, bro. You're such a good dude, like a real dude, a good dude who came, you know, and said, what can I do to help you set up? So it was really dope. So I did want to do something for Joe. Anyway, so I'm going to do this, but it's not going to take away from my giveaway because my promise to you guys is you got to be present unless you're a legend. So I am going to do. Well, here's what I'll do. I'm going to give this to Joe, and then I'm going to do 4 giveaways tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have 2 legends and 2 regulars, okay? 2 legends and 2 regulars. All right, so stay tuned tomorrow on Birds 365. Lock in with me tomorrow, and we'll do 2 giveaways. So I'm going to give it to Joe, but I'm not going to take away from you guys, if that makes sense. All right, so I appreciate all you guys. Lucius, what's up, bro? Hope you're doing well. David LaPrade, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Joe deserves a W. Yes, he does. I'm going to email him now. Fantastic coverage. Thank you, man. I had a lot of fun at the parade. That was really dope. El Yepa, what's up, my boy? Hope you're doing well. Xander, that's cool. Thanks, James. All right, guys. I appreciate all of you guys. So stay locked in. Tomorrow, check in on Birds 365. Listen to the full show. Be here. Interact. Talk. Discuss. Anything you want to do in the chat. We appreciate it. And then on Xander time tomorrow, we'll do 4 giveaways. 4. 2 legends, 2 regular members. Thank you all. I love all you guys so much. You guys are the greatest supporters in the world. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for being the best football team in the world. The Eagle is our mascot. Just smiled today once because of that. We don't root for the dorky-ass Commanders or a dorky-ass Cowboy. Who the F wants their mascot to be a cowboy? That is lame-ass, lame right there. We got the Eagles, the bird of America, the bird of freedom, the bird of the nation. We are America's team. I love the Birds. I love all you guys. Thank you all. And Reyes, my guy. Love you, bro. See you next time, everybody, on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time. on Birds 365.